The recording will be made publicly available on one of the town websites. So if you are dialed in remotely on Zoom, please mute yourself unless you wish to talk and raise your hand. And I will, either me or someone else will notice that you're waiting to talk, and I'll then call on you in turn. So it is now.
You have the TV on, Carl?
You're not seeing us.
No.
Okay, let's try camera. Okay, now. Yep,
Yeah,
I
there
see
you
my.
go. You got it now.
Oh, good. Okay. Great. 7:04, I'll call the meeting to order. Our first thing we do is to introduce ourselves. My name is Carl Hummel. I'm the chair. Will the rest of the committee members introduce themselves?
Susan Cahalan, I'm co-chair.
Mike Amandler, senior member.
Damon?
Damon Tinio.
Okay. We will start the public hearings at 7:15. In the meantime, we have some business not related to the public. Oh, and here's Peter Pop. So, yep.
No, Damon's on.
Damon's on. Yep. All right, so some of the issues our first order of business at 7:15 will be to continue the hearing for 3537 Hastings, 1820 Washington Street. The applicant has asked us to continue this as they are still waiting for more information. SDEP. We received an email this morning relating to the Applewood project. Is someone here who wishes to speak about that? Okay, I sent him an email saying I expect that we may see him in 2 weeks. We are.
Carl, I drove by there this afternoon after I saw the email. I did notice a lot of water coming out onto the street in between the two houses, between 11 and 9. But I didn't, start walking the property because I didn't know who was around. But I didn't see any trenches, but they could be at the back of the property.
Well, we'll wait for the homeowner to follow up with address and some photos and see if he's able to come to our next meeting and wishes us to investigate. We have a letter from Karen Friedman at Murray Friedman, lawyer, attorney's firm, asking us for information on the enforcement of 23 Cape Road. As part of our discussion of that, we will know what past enforcement order was, actions, and then carry forward to what they are asking us to do at this point. And that's the other correspondence is talking about Cape. We're here to discuss that.
Hey, Carl?
Yep.
Did you get the paperwork I left there for Muddy Brook?
Yes. Is that one for Muddy Brook? And so
The order of conditions that was mysteriously missing, well, now they filled out a new one, and there's a signature page there that just needs to be signed. It's already been approved ages ago, but we need to get it to them so they can record it.
okay, so sign that and then we'll pass it down, or at least we'll sign it.
And also 7 Old Taft Ave is looking for a partial certificate of compliance until the landscaping is done in the spring.
That's tree, hazardous ash tree.
No, I don't know what that's all about.
Okay,
This was new construction certificate of compliance. 7 Old Taft Ave.
oh,
It was on the desk.
Yeah.
For people who just came in late, there's a sheet that we're collecting people's addresses and names on. Great, thank you. Okay.
Any more chairs? Oh, we got a decent here.
Couple here, three up here.
The one that.
Sure.
We have someone who will be discussing the NOI for 73 Blackstone. Great, okay, I talked with you on the phone earlier. Okay. Do we have someone here for 47 Milford? We have someone here for 46 Uxbridge. And just talking about some court and old. So, well, I guess we just get the gossip for another 5 minutes. You're gonna-
Oh, well. This is a fancy restaurant.
We don't need to hear about Benjamin. It says, hi, Tim. Tim McCarty is on, he's here remotely.
Can you hear me, Carl?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's like $150 a pop.
Yeah.
We have time for a little conversation? Or
Yes, you can do
Because this has been an issue specifically, but it's more generic. And it might affect why some people are here in frustration as to when we're hearing what. So I want to separate the two. One is an apology. If we have a hearing,
Yeah.
and for some reason we can't do it, we just continue to the next. And formal notice might not go out, or like this, it did go out, but they're still not ready and we don't hear about it, so. But the agenda should be set 48 hours ahead, so that's public data, that's what we go on. But more importantly to me is who's in control of the advertising of the meeting? It shouldn't be advertised until we've received the notice. We set the date as to when we want to hold the hearing. Then the question is, who's responsible to advertise? And we've done it differently. Sounds like it's up to the applicant to advertise. They advertise and we get proof, and that works, except it's hard times as
A lot of things.
whether we schedule. So I don't know how we do it now or what the procedure is, but it should be clear, hopefully.
Well, I think part of the problem is. So.
That's a big part of the problem.
And
That's the only problem, I think, right now, right?
It's not our job to hire. Not to hire the firm.
I interviewed, Susan and I were scheduled to interview, and Susan was thankful to attend. I interviewed with our town HR person, a potential candidate, explaining, coming to the meetings and tracking the minutes, writing up paperwork, and he is going to be discussing moving forward and going through the background checks that happens. You can see about transition. That's for 10 hours.
So I guess we're paying for a service to track that it was advertised appropriately.
that's something that we'll need to investigate about whether the bill should be paid by the board or by us.
So in addition to the advertising, they gotta pay for this service, proof of advertising, as opposed to green cards, which is proof of notification of the butters. It's the same concept, I guess.
Okay. Clock says 7:15, so I will now open the public meeting hearing of our agenda. As I said, we have been requested by the applicants to continue 3537 Hastings Street, 1820 Washington Street. They're coming to us with updated SDEP information. Peter, I believe you have views on this, so I'd like to hear a motion from one of the other committee members.
I'll make a motion to continue it
Okay, to our next meeting.
to our next available meeting.
Okay. Second, I have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
David abstains.
Okay, Tim, we need a
Yep, Tim, I.
motion passes. Unanimously. Two refusals. We're now opening up the public hearing. From my hand count, there are more people here for 23 Cape than 106 Millville, so we'll do it in that order. We'll now open the public hearing for 23 Cape Road. Continuation of discussion of NOI notice of intent submitted on behalf of applicant Stephen Booten for the construction of a one-story warehouse building at 23 Cape Road, Mendon, Mass. By Dan Wells, Senior Wildlife Wetland Scientist from LEC Environmental Consultants. Other people from LEC who can make a presentation?
I'm Dan Wells. Connor Downey is from the project team from Blue Water Property Group. He's going to begin the presentation and share his screen, if that's okay.
Okay, before that, I want to let the members of the audience, since this is a very, members of the public are very interested in this. The way that we're going to run the next couple of minutes is they will make their presentation. And then the members of the Conservation Commission, myself and the people on the Concom on the Zoom call, they will be making their questions and having discussions with the applicant. At that time, when we have all run through all of our ideas, I will open it up and I will ask you to raise your hand. I'll motion to you. You will identify your name and street address for the record and then state a question or opinion. So,
Excuse me, you said they? Who are you referring to when you said they?
which part?
You referred to they.
Oh, there are two members of the Concom on this Zoom call, Dana Tidio and Tim McCarty. So they are people who would be asking questions during the first phase after the applicant finishes their presentation. Anything else?
Who are you, sir? Who are you?
Who are you?
I'm Michael Mandelaire. I introduced myself. Usually when people speak, as the chairman said, they would identify themselves to the people on the board here and to the people in the audience.
My name is John DeToma. I live behind Talbot Farm Drive, Mendon, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have some new people coming in. We're now presentation for 23 Cape Road. And there's some chairs down here if you want to grab them and just like move to the side or something instead of standing. Sure. All right, we're ready for your presentation.
All right. Good evening, members of the Conservation Commission. My name is Connor Downey from Blue Water Property Group, LLC, the applicant, and I will share my screen for presentation purposes. With me? Can you all see that?
Yes.
Excellent. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Just flipped out of presentation mode. If you can do it, go back to the presentation mode.
Bear with me 1 second here. Sorry. Da-da. Okay, let's try this. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So again, my name is Connor Downey here on behalf of the applicant for the project of 23 Cape Road in Mendon. I am joined tonight by Kevin Demers of Depreet Engineering, the project civil engineer, and Daniel Wells from LEC Environmental, the project's wetland scientist. We're in front of you tonight to open our notice of intent public hearing for this project. We were previously in front of you for an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for this project and received the order of resource area delineation approval on February 8th of 2022, which was recorded with the Worcester Registry of Deeds on April 1st of 2022. We have submitted to the planning board an application for site plan approval and special permit for an approximately 205,000 square foot warehouse building with associated improvements, which we walk you through the site plan a bit later in the presentation. We opened a public hearing with the planning board on November 28th of last year, continued that hearing to January 9th, and will be also on the agenda for February 6th in a couple weeks here. Other progress we've made to date that is pertinent to the Conservation Commission. We have secured a fire water connection to the building through the Mendon and Hopedale Water Commissions. We're currently permitting wells through the DEP to provide domestic water service to the building. And we have also received our MEPA environmental notification form certificate through that office. So with that being said, I'll now pass the presentation over to Dan Wells just to discuss some of the project specifics.
What is NEPA?
Massachusetts Environmental Protection Agency.
Oh,
Protection Act, apologies.
Policy Act. Okay, can you do the next slide, Connor?
Can?
Yep, okay, so the project, most of you are familiar with the location. It's on the west side of Cape Road. As you can see, the project site is outlined in red. And on the very western side of the property, you can see a blue kind of dashed and dotted line.
Excuse me, Jim, I can't see. This is so small, I have no idea what he's talking about.
So here's the property line outlined in red. On the western side of the property, you can see there's indicating a stream. This is the most current USGS map, which is from 2021. And I just wanted to note that this is a symbol for an intermittent stream. During the ANRAD process, the town's basically had, there's a procedure in the Rivers Protection Act regulations that when a stream is mapped as intermittent, you have to run a software program called StreamStats, which looks at the drainage area upstream, and it looks at different flow rates. And so by the procedures in the Wetlands Protection Act, this stream was not considered perennial. But I just wanted to point out during the ANRAD process, the applicant conceded to the peer reviewer that he had evidence that just drainage area was larger than actually the program calculated. So the applicant just agreed to concede that it is a river, even though the procedures in the Wetlands Protection Act do not confirm that. So I just wanted to make that clear. So
with that concession, he gives the Conservation Commission jurisdiction for 200 feet.
Exactly.
From that stream.
Exactly, yep.
Where it is flagged.
200.
Excuse me, I know but I couldn't see it. I don't see any scale on this map. I don't even see off west designation. So how do I know? When you mentioned 200 feet, that where that 200 feet is, that the whole thing?
No, and that'll become relevant later on in the slide.
I think it's relevant now that he's
Please,
just
sit down.
looking
No,
at something
no.
that I can't even
I
understand.
don't want to hear from you.
He
at
wants
this
to
point.
talk to a blank
Please
wall.
stop talking. I don't want to hear at this point.
Well, you're gonna hear from me soon.
You will hear from you at the time designated in the meeting to hear from the public. You're hearing their presentation. This is a standard USGS topological map, and our familiar with how to do wetlands work and other conservation work are able to look at that, identify north, south, east, and west, and have an idea of the scale.
They can't, how do they do that?
North is directly up. Scale's a question.
So
Is this a part of the map or the
I
whole?
will entertain questions from the audience after the presentation and after.
I don't think you should go any further until we have a map that we can see and understand it.
Please please do not any further. Yes, continue.
Okay, next slide, please, Connor. This is an aerial photograph taken in 2021 showing again the red outline of project site. You can see that as of 2021, when this was taken, most of the site is existing cleared. There's the existing Witten Street. There's a kind of a circle on the western end. So those are the conditions that were present when Blue Water and our team came in to do the wetlands and all civil engineering. Next slide, please.
Before you go to the next slide, can you draw with the pen about where the stream would be?
Yep, it runs kind of right along, mostly off the property. A little bit comes in right about here, but
Yep.
mostly off the property.
Thank you.
And when was the photo taken? Sorry.
This is standard from Mass GIS. It's publicly available. They say spring 2021 is what their reference is.
You can see the solar panel farm to the south.
Okay, next one, please, Connor.
Sure. So this is me, Dan. I'll just give a quick, as mentioned, this is the site plan that we have put in front of the planning board for approval, that we're still working through the process there. The total site is plus or minus 21.3 acres. The plan that we have proposed to the planning board is for an approximately 205,445 square foot warehouse, of which 35 feet maximum building height. There will be 34 dock high loading positions on the western side of the building, as well as 2 drive-in doors. There'll be 206 car parking stalls to the eastern side of the building, 4 of which will be for electric vehicles. There will be 20 trailer parking stalls, as you can see designated here and here. And then there will also be a 12-foot high sound barrier to the west side of the site for additional screening and buffering.
The sound barrier, is that one of the lines on the map that we're looking at?
It's the westernmost, it's a little difficult to see, sorry. It's a little difficult to see in this plan, but it's the westernmost edge of this concrete looking area.
Market. Okay,
Can you blow up the presentation part? Full screen? Oh.
I'm sorry, is there a question?
go on.
I got a question.
Yeah.
How far was it?
How far is the wall? The
How far-
sound wall from the wetlands?
How far is the sound wall from the wetland area?
From the
I
wet-
do,
I can, for that, Connor, it's approximately at its closest approach in the southwestern part of the building. The nearest is approximately 5 feet from the wetland area and approximately 250 feet from the riverfront, from the stream. And on the northwest side, the nearest approach is approximately 100 feet from the wetland and approximately the same 250 feet from the stream.
So for the most part, it's out of the wetland, out of the beach.
Correct.
But there are a few places that 150 to 200 feet, and that's why you're here before us tonight.
To a zoom close up of that.
Okay.
All right, so this is the existing conditions, just showing where the bordering vegetated wetlands are. There's a system on the north center that extends onto the property. That's a system that drains northward. This series over here in the northwest corner and this series, these are 2 bordering vegetated wetland series that are associated with Mill Plain Brook. This here you can see the actual channel of Mill Plain Brook, which is most pretty much off the property to the west. There's one additional wetland series, and this is actually an isolated vegetated wetland, so it's jurisdictional only under the local bylaw. It's not state jurisdictional, but it does, under the bylaw, has the same buffer zone.
That buffer's 100 feet.
Yes, exactly.
So the northern blue line, that's 100. The southern blue line is 100.
Yeah, 100 from all of these. And then this plan does not show the riverfront boundary, and you'll see that on a subsequent plan.
Sure. This was in the INRAD, maybe we asked you to pick up that line on the south, which abuts like the
Solar panels.
solar panel.
That's this. This was not delineated during the ANRAD, but
So thank you. Of your property, where does it go? It goes south and west, or?
yeah, it's just kind of a self-contained system that kind of fizzles out once you get down to the area. So
it's unrelated, but
if there was a
drain out that way.
the slope would kind of take everything that way, but there's no stream coming out of that.
Because your corner cuts in, someone took out that corner, right? There's a pretty steep drop in that corner. The grading, but it is what it is. So thank you.
Okay, you can do the next one, Connor. All right, ready for Kevin.
So just a brief civil engineering overview, the grading of the site, the high point in the area of the cul-de-sac is approximately elevation 262. In this, under existing conditions, the stream and wetland area is approximately elevation 210, so grades around 50 feet top to bottom on the site from east to west.
What's the length?
Would be approximately, say, 100 feet there, approximately 500 feet,
From the cul-de-sac.
my estimate. Correct. So the under proposed conditions, we have a grading, a parking area in front that grades from south to north. The proposed building is at approximately, the slab is approximately 242. And that means the truck loading court is at approximately elevation 238. There will be, as far as the drainage, there's drainage upgrading of the product of the project under existing conditions from the frontage lots as well as the roadway itself. That will be diverted around to the southern side and treated with a downstream defender as just a further water quality treatment practice before being discharged to a swale that will run along the southern property line. There's currently a few riprap areas, in the southeastern area, and this swale will basically lead to that same general vicinity. The on-site drainage will be routed around the south and north of the building to an underground storm tech system in the rear of the building that will have oil water separator catch basins and will be treated with an isolator row and treated through the filter layer and infiltrated. And this will overflow to the rear of the parking area. And we propose to, there's an existing head wall with 15-inch, approximate 15-inch pipe. What we do is with a larger pipe for discharge, since today a lot of it goes overland as opposed to going through the pipe system. What we'll do is pull back, propose an outfall and a riprap, approximately 100-foot riprap swale down to the existing head wall, remove that head wall, and just to create a energy dissipation with the riprap and flattening that slope. so that it releases energy before discharging to the wetlands.
You said there's a 50-foot difference from the front,
From east to west.
east to west?
East to west, correct.
Okay, obviously, where you're putting the building, you're gonna level that off.
Yes, there's actually what we can do in this case is these entries in front will be office areas, which do not have to be at the slab level. So we're proposing to have those, up above the actual slab. So we're more or less stepping down from the parking area into the slab, and then that keeps this truck loading area in the 230s as opposed to much higher.
You saying that, then the wall on this side, the foundation on this side is not.
Is going to act as a wall, correct? And I believe Connor addressed most of the other high level items, including water utilities. Just also want to note that we're proposing a septic system in the southeastern part of the site that will pump from near the truck loading area, and we're working with the Board of Health on that on septic.
You said that there were going to be wells in addition to the water connection to the water district.
Correct. Those will be located in the northeast corner.
Okay, so they're far away from the septic system, and
Correct.
I assume far away from
Upgrading.
other people's other septic systems as well.
Yes, correct.
Carl, could I ask a question?
I got a question for you here, because it was brought up at the site walk. The height of the wall in the sound wall, will that wall be sitting on a berm, or will that be sitting on the grade of the parking lot? Connor, maybe you can answer that, or somebody.
In terms of back here on the, do you mean the grade of the
sound
truck
barrier.
court?
They were asking, like, well, if it's 12-foot wall and you got it on a 6-foot berm, I mean, are we gonna realistically be 18 feet tall, or is it gonna be 12 feet max?
Sure. So
Just
it'll be 12 feet tall from this westernmost area of the concrete right here. Just call it the western bound of the truck court concrete, right? And then there'll also be, you can see the grading lines here. It grades down. Obviously, the gradient continues to fall off to the west. So this will be graded down gradually. So this will have somewhat of a minor berm effect right here. But it'll be at the grade of the concrete.
All right, is that something that would be entertained to go a little higher if it helped, with the residents,
Potentially, yes. And we're doing, Damon, I guess, benefit of everyone else. We're handling that obviously through the planning board. But we are looking at still at that sound wall. We have to revise our sound study based on some commentary from the peer reviewer. So that is still under discussion. So to answer your question, potentially, yes.
Yes. Okay, I mean, just because it was asked the other day, I just wanted to bring it up. I know it's not Concom, but I just wanted to bring it up just because the residents are concerned about it.
Yep, understood.
Thank you.
Tim, did you?
Connor, yes, I did. Yeah, Connor, what's the distance from the lot line to the top of the slope where you're going to start grading right around the sound wall? What's the distance in footage? Can you tell me that?
From the westernmost property line to the sound wall?
Yes.
Kevin, do you know off the top of your head? We just did an exercise.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the drawing with me, but just using the setbacks as a guide, it appears to be approximately 150 to 200 feet from the wall to the property line.
Okay. And if I'm reading this correctly, the loading docks are in the rear. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. So I see. And the building is tilt panel construction, concrete, 40. What did you say? How tall? 45 feet?
35 feet on
35
average.
feet. And
Yep.
Is it
It is
tilt panel?
tilt
Okay, are these being
concrete. Yep.
poured on, are these being poured on site or are you gonna be importing them?
You know, we haven't made that decision yet. We're looking at both options. I guess for the group's benefit, the other option is precast, where they would manufacture them offsite and truck them onto the site. We're looking at both options right now, Tim.
Okay, okay, and, I mean, we're not looking at a lighting plan, but, you know, I'm just going, so when you have loading docks and you have, you know, a minimum distance between the property lines that abuts residential from, this commercial use, the backup alarms are a real problem. And is that what you're talking about from your sound study?
Yeah,
Or
that'll
is it
be
just the
handled.
general
Yep.
noise?
Everything sound will be handled as part of that study. Backup alarms, trucks, you name it. HVAC.
Yeah. Okay. All right, and this line that you're referring, this dotted line on the corner, on the, maybe the southwest corner here, where it's angled, is that the 50-foot no disturb? Is that what that is? That dotted line following the wetland flagging?
Right here.
Yes, yes.
I
Yeah.
believe that is the 50-foot, correct?
And where's the 100, the black line?
The 100
Yes,
is
the-
this
Okay.
black dotted line right here.
Okay, okay. What is this purple dotted line here in the back? This real pronounced purple line?
That is the drainage system, correct, Kevin?
Yes, those are the drainage pipelines.
Okay.
I have a question. If you,
So, I'm not finished yet. So, so also, depending on how this sound study, you can mitigate the sound that's going to be generated through the peer review, is going to dictate the height of a berm. Because if the site slopes off, if you're sloping grading down, the elevation of the building, the parking lot, and the noise is still at the elevated height there, and then you're dropping down. So is that sound study going to dictate whether there's going to be an earth berm as well as a sound barrier on top of the berm? Is that what you're getting at?
Yep. The sound model takes elevation into account.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Of course.
back into stormwater for a second. So part of best management practices for a lot of stormwater sites, especially so close to resource areas, would be inserts inside this catch basins and whatnot to catch oil and grease, PAHs, anything that's coming from, who knows where these trucks are gonna be coming from. What are they dragging with them, stuff of that nature. Are you planning on that, and what particular brand or whatnot?
We're proposing oil water separators, so basically hoods for the catch basins. And again, we have all the drainage will enter this underground system, which has an isolated row for further protection that will take care of the pre-treatment and reduce the total suspended solids pollutants before it gets into the rest of the chambers. And then, that water quality will be infiltrated through a sand filter layer, with the overflow being discharged.
So it's just sand that's treating?
Correct. It'll be the underground, the isolator row, which is basically geofabric around the first layer, and then sand filter. We did a total suspended solids. The total removal calculated was 97% for the on-site runoff. And we had peer reviews done by Graves Engineering, and they were satisfied at the last planning board hearing.
Yeah, so, but also the emissions from these diesel emissions, which is primarily the sources now, it also ends up in the water, so it's just an air issue. So I don't know how you're gonna address that.
How often do the filters get cleaned for the underground?
There's a maintenance and inspection guide, and it dictates in this when they get maintained. They get inspected, I believe either 2 times per year, 1 time per year. And if there's an issue, if there's standing water that's encountered, 48, 72 hours after a storm, then they're directed to clean it out. And typically these facilities have contracts with either the provider, Storm Tech, the Storm Tech company, or some other provider that services businesses in the area.
Did you supply us with a spec sheet on that?
Yes, there should be a spec as part of the plan set.
Is there a process whereby the town, whether it's the Board of Health or us, get notified if after a heavy stormwater event, you end up having to do this kind of work, or do we just look downstream and see if there are contaminants?
We don't have a particular trigger for this, but yes, we note that after significant storm events, then the owner shall inspect these systems.
Okay. Changing the subject, you mentioned there is a sound study that is still ongoing. Do you have a time for when that will be done? Because it looks like that sound study might influence you changing things or moving heights around.
Connor may know where that stands, but it's, I know we are working on it for the next planning hearing. I don't know if that's still a target.
It'll be sometime in the next couple of weeks, to answer your question.
Okay, so you may need to come back with a revised plan if your sound study wants you to tweak the back area.
Correct.
That is looking
Correct.
Okay.
If you have to do that.
Yeah, good. The stormwater. So seems to me the existing road comes at a straight pitch off the site that you own. But I gotta imagine there's a lot of drainage coming off Gasco or that neck of the woods that's off of your property, but comes onto your property. I'm not sure where your property, does it go all the way up? You own the road or?
The property currently ends to the east of the wells, reaches the private right of way, goes around this circle, and then cuts off north to south, just to the east of the truck parking spaces in the southeast.
Okay, because I guess my big question is, there's a lot of water, coming onto your site to begin with. There's a lot of water hitting all the paved area that you're proposing. There's a lot of water that's hitting the roof on your building. And eyeballs like almost 3/4 of your lot. And that you're going to take all that water and infiltrate it. You just do the numbers work.
The plan is to infiltrate all the runoff for the 1 inch storm, for the water quality storm. So
1 inch.
So the runoff will be infiltrated for that storm. And then there will be infiltration beyond this, but after that point, there will be some spillover through the pipes to the outfall. And we have an analysis in the stormwater report that shows we have a decrease in runoff for, 1 through 100-year storms. So there will be less runoff proposed than there is existing, partially by infiltration, partially by detention and release. The existing roadway will be intercepted, shown here, the last catch basins before you see the paved area, where we start the proposed grading. We'll bring that existing pavement, which currently, runs straight on through the existing circle, which it's a very faint line, but it's on the, basically, the proposed sound wall cuts through the center line. So under existing conditions, this runs entirely down the roadway and enters through a short pipe into the wetland. So we'll be improving this runoff by intercepting it on the up gradient side and proposing a downstream defender near the truck parking in the south, and then that will be released into a grass swale riprap swale, which will dissipate the energy along the south of the building and before it reaches the stream.
Okay, so the road runoff, before it enters your site, you're diverting that off into a pipe that then goes through so you're taking out some of the sediments,
Correct.
and then it discharges to a swale. And then it goes all down that swale and joins up with the discharge from the other side, and it joins up with the discharge that's coming up from, if it ever gets supercharged, overflowed underground. So you're telling me the surface water does not get through your infiltration drain?
Correct. The up gradient does not go through the infiltration. It goes through the chamber down here and discharged in the southern area of the
And what
site.
happens with the surface water on the northern?
On the northern roadway here up let me clarify, this southern driveway does get into the infiltration system, the proposed southern driveway. And the proposed northern driveway also goes through the underground infiltration.
Because it stays on the road.
Correct, it stays
Into
stays
those
within the road and it doesn't discharge to
But
a
the
swale.
catch basins before the cul-de-sac, for the turn entrance, that gets diverted.
Correct.
Goes by surface. Okay.
Yes.
And then what happens with all the roof?
Which way does the roof slope? Where will the water be?
It's going to be more or less a flat roof that there's going to be internal drains to the system along the roof. And these will be collected and run underneath out to the truck court to the infiltration area.
Flat roof in New England. Well, that's kind of gutsy.
So is that
Flattish.
Is that underground pipe into the infiltration system?
Correct, yes.
Question about the truck parking lot in the southeast. How are contaminants from that parking area captured? You mentioned that in the back parking lot, you have it set up in what kind of filtering takes place in the front?
Correct. These will have the oil water separator, hooded sumps, in each of these structures. Leading from this top area going down to the infiltration system. And there will be pre-treatment at the infiltration system as well.
Okay, next question. Was the stormwater plan, wastewater plan peer reviewed?
The stormwater has been peer reviewed and Graves Engineering accepted at the last planning board hearing. The septic system is being submitted to Board of Health for their review.
So, yeah, the Board of Health is concerned with septic system. We're concerned with wastewater runoff when it will impact the wetlands, which is why I'm thinking about it. My other comment is there's now a movement in Massachusetts, at least in other places. A 100-year storm is now happening every 10 years. I'm not going to say whether it's global warming or climate change. I'm just saying you look at the historical record. 500-year storms are happening like much more frequently than we would like. So when you're saying you've only gone up to a 100-year storm, have you thought about what happens if there's a tsunami of water coming down in a very short period of time?
Well, we do have, we have a little bit of room at the top of we usually apply a little bit of freeboard just for emergency situations. We do have a large outlet at the top. We can certainly check what type of storm above 100-year we can manage as far as, not disrupting the site. Obviously with the curbing here, what would happen present state is that if it were to overflow, it would, build up along the curb and then eventually spill over on the slope. But that would be quite an extreme storm for that to happen, but I can find what that storm would be.
The last thing we want is stuff spilling over and eroding away the riprap, and there goes your pavement. Back parking lot.
What size riprap are you gonna use then?
I believe it was R3, R4. That's what we had on, check the spec on that.
Couple questions, I guess on the parking lot. Are there any trees planted in that front parking lot and or the back parking lot? Back parking is truck loading, but doesn't our park, don't we have recommendations if our requirements for trees in parking lot?
Yes, we had we have trees around the front parking lot. We had, some islands. What we had done and what we're going to review with the planning board is that this, typically, the bylaws ask for, some areas, some strips within the parking lot. What we did in this case, just due to the grading of the site, we figured it would be better to provide a larger buffer island between the driveways and the parking lot and plant the edges of the parking lot as far as a better, a more, more solid bit of greenery than just doing small strips between the parking rows that, may not be valuable. They'll be, if they're 6-foot strips, it's a large parking area. You have bumpers going over them and, people stepping over them. So we figured the larger island here would be a better use of having a solid green area.
Is there a planting plan? Do you show where your trees are going to be planted? Because to me, it's all about the shape. Besides leaving grass to infiltrate, it's more right shaded.
There is a land, and yes.
Yeah, we don't have the landscaping plan tonight, but we can present it at the next meeting. We do meet the shade tree requirement outlined in the bylaw.
Okay, good. Last question on parking, snow dump. Where are you going?
We did have some areas of snow dump along the front island. We had, some of the back islands near the truck court. We did have some outlined in the plan set, on the grading utility plans.
Since the snow dump's likely to be picking up sand and salt and road contaminants, we'll want to make sure that those hit your filtering system and are not just discharged into the wetlands. So that's something else that we would look at a future meeting. Damon, Tim, do you have any questions from Zoom?
I'm good, thank you.
No, I'm good for now, Carl.
Are there additional slides?
I believe there are 2 or 3 more.
Round out the relation to the Wetlands Protection Act. So this is a slide showing the compliance with the riverfront protection regulations. So this is just the limit of work overlaid on the aerial photo, so you can see. And we looked at this. We had a site walk with a couple of the commissioners yesterday. So we looked at this very specifically, but this black dotted line is the project limit of work. This green line is the riverfront line. So you can see these yellow hatched areas. There's 2 of them that are inside the riverfront.
Inside, do you mean within 200 feet?
Within, yeah, exactly. Within the riverfront. So collectively, there's a 3971 and 3707 square feet. That adds up to 7,678 square feet. The riverfront regulations allow you to alter up to 10% of the existing on-site riverfront. And so those small areas collectively are 6.6%. So it meets the performance standards. What's important to know about this, this is existing disturbed land. There's no trees or just overgrown kind of meadow habitat. So it's no natural vegetation is being altered. And particularly this area here, this is being done to create that new riprap to improve the stormwater conditions. So, and also to eliminate that underground pipe that ties into the wetland system. So this riverfront alteration is 100% for improving the existing, the stormwater management conditions. So that's the next, want to go to the next slide, Connor?
Quick question
Okay.
first. Did grades into as well?
They have not done anything wetlands related. It's just
Okay.
been stormwater as far as I know.
Okay. Something to discuss in the future.
Okay. And if you do the next slide, Connor. So, okay, this is back to Kevin. This is question came up during, I guess this is just showing that same view on the civil engineer plan.
Correct. It would just be the disturbance proposed is for that drainage outfall, which would be approximately 3,700 feet within the 200-foot river bank. And then the disturbance for grading the slope, which again is in an already disturbed area of not much value, is approximately 3,800 feet, 3,800 square feet, whereas the total river bank area on the site is 117,000 square feet, plus or minus.
Just curious as to lines, that parallel lines, which I'm guessing is the existing outflow, it extends beyond your property line. Is that what happened? They put in pipe?
There's a channel. This represents a channel, the wetland line that comes from the site. Where the blue line ends here, that's the existing head wall, which the pipe exits out ahead here.
An 18-inch pipe, there's a channel.
So the velocity comes through that pipe, it's scoured out and created almost a channel. You can see the steep slopes and you can see the sediment kind of lining that. So that's why this is not a naturally shaped stream. So it's perfectly, rectangular because of that velocity. And so we're proposing to, by putting riprap, the discharge is now way back here, anticipate that. And then this head wall and pipe is going to be above ground. So it's totally going to eliminate that problem.
I understand that. The mystery for me is that drainage network got ripped up 10, 15 years ago. And so I don't think there's water coming through that pipe, right? It's, so I don't know, is there?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
On site yesterday.
So how's
we
it
did
get,
see
so
some
is, are the whole pipe is connected? So is existing, because yeah, I didn't go into the wetland when that, but there was water coming off the sheets off the site, so it wasn't going into a catch basin.
And I think part of that, honestly, is that the drainage system is not, I don't think it's suitably sized to handle that. The length of road coming from up top all the way down low, a 15, 18-inch pipe, I don't think can handle that. And I believe as part of some measures from prior.
And there
prior
would
access to
there
clean
would
it
have
up.
been a detention pond, right?
Yeah, there's no detention.
What happened to the detention pond? That's where the catch basin should, we don't, that's history.
It's nothing that we dealt with.
All right, are you good? Does that complete your presentation?
There's just one more slide.
Okay.
Same view, just showing, so this is looking at the Mendon Wetlands Protection Bylaw regulations. And so there is a 25-foot no disturb zone, which is shown in this white dash line, and a 50-foot no build zone. So this is just indicating the project. There's a small amount of work that needs to take place in the no disturb zone. And again, it's 1,137 square feet. And again, it's that same area we were talking about. It's existing disturbed. It's specifically to improve the conditions of the wetlands. But otherwise, there's no work, no structures or building within 50 feet and no other alteration within 25 feet.
And after you finish the sound study and more planning board review, that may change a bit, and then you come back and talk with us further.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Riprap, what kind of, is it gonna be natural stone and not like concrete chunks or coated blocks or anything like that?
Correct, that would be the intent.
So like granite, whatnot?
Any other questions from the committee? Okay, Susan and Damon, I believe you did the
Here.
site. Any observations to share from that? Susan, do you
Well,
have?
I did see the water running through the pipe yesterday,
Okay,
pretty high velocity too.
okay,
I took some photos of all of them.
okay.
I know there was a question about that.
If you don't mind, could you continue sharing the presentation? Because as we go through the rest of the session for this part of the meeting, people may have questions and we want to zip back and forth between the different pictures. Okay.
Sure.
And there was some silt fence in the wet, it's all in the wetlands, but that
Already
obviously
left
somebody
it
else,
over.
yeah.
Okay. All right, we will now turn to part of the meeting where we will ask people from the audience, abutters and other people. The format would be you would raise your hand and I'll identify you and I'll try and go back and forth and see if anybody's raising their hand on the Zoom call. And what I would prefer, since there are so many people here, if you ask only one question, the applicants will have a chance to respond. You have one follow-up for clarification, but don't change the subject. I expect we'll go around and just have other people doing it. The other ground rule is that as you can hear from the questions and discussions that we have been having with them for the past half hour, the Conservation Commission does not talk about sound. We do not talk about lighting. We do not talk about septic systems. Those are all handled by the Planning Board or the Board of Health. As you heard, the questions we are here about are what is going to be the impact to the wetlands to the north, the west, and the south? What is the impact going to be for your stormwater runoff? You're now going through and having it's a whole lot of dirt at the moment, but you're going to put up an impervious parking lot, impervious driveway. We are asking questions about the stormwater runoff. We are asking questions about the diesel trucks and whether they are not necessarily air pollution, but definitely if they drip stuff on the ground coming in, road salt or crud or diesel fuel, we are concerned about the runoff from that getting into those wetland areas. So if I feel that your question is veering towards something that is not appropriate for the Conservation Commission, I will interrupt you and ask you to go show up at the Planning Board meeting, show up at the ZBA if it goes to the ZBA, bring it to the Board of Health, because they are the ones who have the authority to work with the applicant to negotiate. As you saw from the back and forth, there are a couple times where myself or other people's on the board were saying, yeah, we're going to want you to come back and give us more details about those things. So we have sufficient expertise, both in regulatory aspects and in construction work. We're able to identify their plans and ask the site engineer and the wetland specialist the hard questions. If you ask a question and they answer it, and we're not sure what the answer is, if the people on the committee are satisfied with their answer, we would hope that you would trust us to be able to follow up sufficiently. And maybe after the meeting or between now and the next meeting, we can have a conversation with you and translate more at length what they explain technically and how it would impact the resource area and the site. So any questions about the format? Yeah.
Format meeting now? Now, questions only?
No, what our people have questions about what I just said about what you are allowed to ask questions about and asking one question and one follow-up that is related to that.
Just one question?
We're going to go
What if I
around.
have?
We'll have to wait your turn. We are going to start with one person asks a question in a follow-up, then we go to the second person. We're going to work our way around the room. And that way, everyone here who is present, who is concerned, will have a chance to address their issues. It may be that after you ask your first question, someone else will ask a question that you had in mind, and then you will need to ask your question because it will already be covered. So,
Will I have an opportunity to ask a second question?
All the questions will be taken, yes.
yeah, unless it gets towards like 10:30, 11, at which point we say, you know what, we'll have to have another meeting. But I'm hoping that we will be able to work our way through a lot of the issues that the public might have. So I'll start. Yes. So if you can We're very interested if you could identify again your name and address and state what your question is.
Name is John DeToma. I live at 9 Talbot Farm Drive. Some of the comments I have aren't questions, but they are comments.
Okay. Are they comments relevant to stormwater runoff, the buffer zone, the vegetation plans, or other issues related to things that the Conservation Commission has jurisdiction of?
Even though a lot of the committee members ask questions about noise, I can't ask any questions about noise. Is that correct?
There are two problems about the noise thing. First one is that's more a planning board issue. And second, the sound study has not yet been completed, so it would be premature for the applicant and their experts to say exactly what they're planning on doing to deal with the OSHA beeps when that sound study hasn't been completed. That's why I specifically asked, when is that going to be completed? And if so, that might adjust their plan.
But you did ask questions about the sound and the answers were given, so, but I cannot ask any questions.
Carl, the reason why the questions were asked about the sound barrier was not because of the sound. It was because of the berm that was going to be installed, and it was going to be in part of the buffer zone. So I think that you just need to, the questions need to be asked from the residents, and let's move forward before we are here till midnight.
That was Dave Mantinio.
Excuse me?
That was Dave Mantinio.
Dave and Timmy, and earlier they was conversing to each other and they weren't identifying themselves. So I don't know who is asking the question and who is answering the question.
Well,
Sir, do you have a question?
I understand you have an excuse, but I'm sitting here not knowing who asked the question and who answered the question, and if that question was answered properly by the proper person.
The question about the berm and the sound wall on top was asked by Dave Mantinio, and the applicant answered that sufficiently. So does that conclude your question about sound? Do you have a question about another issue?
Talked about trucks and the diesel fuel.
Yes.
Will there be any fueling of trucks at the site?
That's a valid question because
There will not.
if you're fueling things, there's a much greater risk of spillage. If there's an underground tank, that's a very big issue.
Carl, question was just answered, and he said no.
Okay. Who answered that? No?
This is Connor Downey, the applicant. There will be no fueling and no underground tank.
Thank you. Okay, next up, I'm now going back to smaller view. Is there someone in the audience? Brendan Chanel. I'm seeing Brendan Chanel. If you could unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, Brendan Chanel, 16 Washington Street. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for taking my question. My question is related to the filtration media, the sand. I'm wondering if there's a useful life to such a media and what that life is expected for this particular site. Is there a wear out mechanism, basically?
Other cleaning the filters question.
There is
Yeah,
a,
specifically to the permanently installed sand media.
correct, there will be maintenance, regular maintenance required. There's obviously a life to everything, so at such time in the future as there's standing water found and it's found that the sand media is clogging and not treating the storm water, that would be a requirement to remove and replace the system. We have that in our inspection maintenance report that was provided as part of the application. So it does have a concrete life, and it would be something that's measured on a yearly basis to determine when that treatment is stalled, when ponding water is evidenced
Mhm.
after.
Is there a?
That makes sense. Sorry.
Go on, go. No. You finish your question, then I'll ask mine. As a
Sure.
follow-up.
So I was wondering, so these systems have been installed and in use for quite some time. Is there an idea of a useful life of a similar system like this on a similar application? Is it 10 years or 50 years?
My direct experience, I haven't been involved with a system that's been fully failed and replaced yet. My guess would be closer to the 50-year time period, but yeah, as far as site observation, I've not encountered that situation yet.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Problem?
I believe that one of the concerns, well, I have it, maybe people in the audience, what I call cleaning the filters, doing that kind of sand replacement, looking and checking and making sure that the pollutants and contaminants are being cleaned out of the filters. Is there a way to publish with the town and the community what that schedule is? And if so, we would think about exploring a mechanism whereby we could check in, the town could say, well, this is the year you're supposed to have gone and done this. Please show us proof that you have done it, and then we'll know that the wetlands is not is now getting filtered out.
Correct. We've done this in our inspection maintenance reports before. Is that we'll add language as needed when the town wishes a schedule to inspect, or for the applicant, the owner, to give them proof of inspection reports. And that's a document we can record with the town, with the county to to show that we're following up with the maintenance.
Okay, that sounds like it's not just Conservation Commission, that kind of thing would be townwide, would apply to all, the entire site, the septic system, as well as planning board is working on. So that's something that we can explore in the next couple of weeks.
Mr. Chair, if I could have followed up on that, because maybe I'm too naive, but I think there's a difference between a filter that you can see and take and backwash, as opposed to an underground filter that's, correct me if I'm wrong, it's just sitting on the naturally occurring stuff. And yeah, you can observe it only when it fails. And so that's the first line, is that when that fails, that's your protection, because that'll fail first for the whole rest of the system. But it's going to take a while for that first line to, well, so I'm like, you know more about it.
Well, I believe it's basically the same principle as
Septic.
the septic system that everybody that lives in Mendon.
You can't inspect your lines.
Right.
You check
And
on
you
your
have to
septic
take it.
and you maintain, but
You
you
have
don't
to-
inspect your
Correct,
lines.
but you have to take it for what it's worth, that it was designed properly and works for the average life is 35 to 50 years.
And or there's a middle line, every once in a while you have to dig up your D-box, because that's where it's going to show up. And so I don't know how
That-
complex the system is.
Again, that is why when you sell a home, you
Have
have
that
to do a
inspection.
Title V inspection. So again,
So it's new to us, and we're not comfortable, and I don't know maintenance on how it's been done elsewhere. We're just a small little town, so how do we do this?
Yeah, I'll get to you next. So as you can hear, there's concern with your long-term maintenance plan, and if you can come back with information, that will provide that information. All right, yep, I'll take you.
Joyce Gilmore, Board of Health. I just wanted to make clear about how the septic system works. It is pumped out in most times,
the solids are pumped out, but the gray water is
and.
discharged and put back into the
Right.
But
rest.
there's no pumping. There's no
But
pumping
you
out
are
there.
able to see that the system is working when you have it pumped out. That's not.
What you're able to see is the solids being collected properly, and the gray water goes out the other side of the septic system, as you well know, into a leach field, and it leaches into the ground, and any so-called contaminants are filtered out with the sand that is used in the leach field.
But there's no
But you
septic
can
tank in
see-
it.
you can
There's no
see-
place that you can pop the top.
Excuse me, you can see if it's inundated with water and it's getting, the pipes are getting lined with, whatever sludge, stuff like that. You can know that.
Yes, I'm not arguing that point. fact, I'm not arguing at all. I'm just,
I wanna-
again,
I
I'm
wanna
a
cut off-
Gusite.
I wanna cut off Discussion about septic systems because it's not relevant unless, Peter, you want to ask something specific about what.
No, it's the infiltration. So I was just bringing up an analogy as to how do you inspect the galley system? Because there is no tank that you can look off the top.
Okay,
Correct me if I'm wrong.
so we look for that as part of a long-term maintenance. plan.
Correct.
For that kind of instructions and job aids for people to figure out whether something needs.
What I can say is part of a storm tech system, they have a manifold system that's basically a header pipe with with covers that you can inspect that. And you can also there is the ability to jet each line as needed to clear obstructions and so forth. So as part of the maintenance, there are openings that can be accessed.
Yeah, as you heard, we don't have expertise in that kind of system. We may ask for peer review of that.
Yeah, I'd like to see some peer-reviewed studies as well.
I think that the peer review was done from Graves Engineering. Already
Yes.
been done through planning board. And
I mean,
there usually is an inspection manhole after that's right before the system that you can, check there. And that's usually where they start their inspection. We've installed one recently in a subdivision in a different town. And that's how they start. That's how you do your inspecting, or there is inspection ports at the end of each chamber, at each leaching field.
So we can defer further technical discussion until we have a better idea of what that plan would be and whether we're comfortable with the manual and what's being proposed. So I'd like to move on to the next question from our audience. Yep, you got your hand up next.
All right, Eric Hodge, 3 Bates Street. When we were discussing water runoff, you mentioned having a detention basin, and it sounded like that was for larger storms and that infiltrates the water over time. My question is, what protection mechanisms might be in place to prevent that from becoming like an insect breeding ground?
Okay.
This will be a system that will be proposed underground with stone and pipe storage, and it's designed to detain the stormwater, but for a short period of time. So, I can provide some further instance of it from our stormwater report. But these typically will detain stormwater for approximately 24 to 36 hours before completely draining out the bottom of the sand. And anything, and part of it's helped by the overflow pipe that leaves the system. So the water will rise, the overflow openings will lead to the outfall pipe. Now whatever is below the first opening that leads to the outfall pipe will drain through the bottom floor of the sand over approximately 24, 36 hours.
Are mosquitoes able to get into the underground pit and start breeding?
These will all have covers on the system. I mean, technically speaking, there's catch basins further up gradient, but there's no readily accessible way to get into the underground system.
I think Eric is asking about I think you guys are talking about two different things, right, Eric? You're talking about the open detention basins that the retention basins that used to have that the water would sit in.
I'm talking about, to be frank. I'm just wondering.
Okay, yeah.
Standing water around the site is what I'm getting at.
If there is standing water network.
Jonas Ring, can you mute, please?
All right. Okay, I don't see any hand raised on the Zoom call, Teams call, so we'll switch sides and we'll go over this stuff.
Sherry McCutcheon, Bethany Community Church. And I have a question for listening to you guys talking about, we'll go back to that and you may ask them for an inspection plan. But do you guys have authority for inspection? What would be who would be the inspecting crew, who would be like putting an inspection hat on and running down there to see how things are going down there. That would be,
This is why I said the inspection plan is not necessarily going to be specific to the Conservation Commission. It may encompass work that the rest of the town boards would be involved in, at which point we have site inspection services. We have people who look at septic systems. We would work with them on that plan and figure out what the statutory authority that the town has and requires that they do things to meet. That's why I was asking, since this is a new kind of thing for us, what assurances can the town get to make sure they're cleaning their filters?
so the logical, the way I see this, if our tent, so we know who's gonna inspect, we need electrical inspector, we know that, we have a septic system that's gonna have an inspection. This is a whole other ballgame, and typically you never see inspectors go back to big projects that are done. That's not something that's, so if there's a concern about this, once you've granted an applicant a go-ahead, it's sort of like based on their proposal to you that they've got it. It's like, we got that, here's our plan. We're gonna do these inspections. And so the question would be, do you guys have the authority for follow-up?
There are two kinds of follow-ups. The usual follow-up that the Conservation Commission does when a developer is building a subdivision or somebody's building a new house out close to the wetlands. They come and ask us, like they are doing right now, for a notice of intent. I'm going to build something. Here's my plot plan. They give us a slideshow. And we say, okay, we need you to, when you're doing the building, do this, 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 and this, and change this, and make all of these things happen. There's something called an order of conditions. The OOC is part of the Mass Registry of Deeds. They cannot sell the house. They cannot get an occupancy permit and move in until we are happy and we release the OOC and say, yep, they did everything that the Conservation Commission said they did. What we're talking about now with the filter cleaning maintenance plan is we've never had to look ahead this far forward. And that's why I'm saying we will have to have a conversation about how do we ensure that these kind of things get done. I'm not proposing anything, but a possibility is there's an escrow account where they deposit money in that is then used to fund this kind of inspection. We have that for some of our open space things where we are obligated to mow the open space. Well, we've got a bank account where the developer put money into it and that pays for maintenance into future years. Again, I'm not saying that's something to happen, but that's the kind of example that the town can look ahead in the next couple of decades.
Carl, if I could, I agree with everything you say, but I also get, it's an interesting point, who's in charge
Yes.
of making sure that an inspection is done for a parking lot in the future? It's either the planning board or the Concom. Planning board really does most look for a structural. Concom would look as for its impacts on the wetlands. Concom can always come in if there's a problem, but not until there is a problem. Whereas it could be written up, some entity is responsible, but if it's a private infrastructure, what public inspection is required to maintain, that's a new one on us.
And my concern is, when you're making things, the public, we're sitting here hoping you guys know something about something. And our concern is, once an entity has been granted a permit, and then you do your order of conditions, and then the deal is done, and they move in, and whoever is coming there with their trucks come, and then a year and a half down the road, 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road, there's an issue. If you made that a part of your decision-making, but it's sort of an open-ended thing, we hope you will get that inspected. You tell us you will get that inspected. I don't know, it just seems.
We have a clearly defined legal mechanism where When someone's building a subdivision, they don't get their road bond back until we're happy.
No, I understand that, but
But the future planning, that's something new, and that's why I'm saying we will have to work this out with the applicant and the other town boards.
Carl?
Carl,
this
can I make a
Go ahead.
comment, Carl?
Go ahead, Tim.
It's Tim Icardi. So, look, we had a similar trucking company. It was down off of Northbridge Road, and it was very similar to this, but this is a larger scale. You know, anytime that, even though this is designed by professionals and it's designed to all the standards and everything's permitted, if in fact down the road something fails, we're made aware of it, because it's generally, most of the time, it's sand and stuff that's generated from the winter that usually takes an effect on these systems. So we know pretty quick when the system stops working, and we can come out there anytime, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, and perform enforcement on the whoever the tenant is at the time, or the owner, to fix it. And then we also, in the past, we've asked for, you know, every 6 months monitoring of the system to have it cleaned and a report put in that it's working properly, you know, depending on if it does fail or it shows signs of failing and it's discharging into the wetland, any siltration or, you know, excessive sand from the winter, you know, there is maintenance, but if it does fail, we can go in there anytime. It doesn't matter if we have an open order or something was approved. If it's failing, and it's going to be an enforcement order. So to answer the last speaker, it doesn't matter how long it is. We have jurisdiction no matter what if it's affecting the wetland. That's it.
Can I go on to the next person who's asking the question?
I mean, sure.
Okay, you first and then over to you by the door.
And thank you. Bruce Howe, 5 Joseph Road. Just a couple of quick comments. Early on in the presentation, they were trying to determine, I believe, how far the building was from the boundary. The northwest corner of the building is 339 feet from the property boundary. Also, there were questions, stormwater peer review. There was not a technical peer review of the stormwater. That's indicated in the peer review comments that Graves Engineering did. They did not do a technical review of the ENF, and they did not do a technical review of the stormwater. The comment that was, pardon me, the comment that was made at the planning board meeting, the question came up, stormwater, and he said, yeah, and Jeff Walsh said, yes, I reviewed the calculation, and that was the end of the discussion. But if you read his actual peer review letter, there's a substantial amount of information that was not peer reviewed. Now, perhaps it wasn't in civil engineering discipline to peer review that, but he did make note of what he did not read. So a technical review of stormwater. Additionally, I was just curious to know if any members of the board had read DEP comments to the MEPA certificate letter or had read the MEPA certificate itself, because it raises considerable issues. And I believe it was, I know I may be jumping around here, but I believe it was DEP who indicated that in the NOI presentation that there should be some plan for the applicant to come up with replication of the 80,000 square foot interference that they're doing. This is actually the MEPA. This is the MEPA.
Okay. I think that you're asking 3 questions there, but
I'm sorry.
So the first one is, I would ask that you explain the peer review, and Susan will talk with you about that. Second, what you've done for addressing the MEPA comments, and the third about, you said that your disturbance to the riverfront area was within the 6%, which is statutory allowable, but he just said 80,000 square feet. So if you can come to a conversation about what that disturbance is, so take it away. Can you say what the Graves Engineering peer review reviewed?
The peer review, I don't know if I've seen the letter that he is referring to, but during the planning board hearing, he said he was satisfied with our response to his comments in reviewing the plan.
I think he said he was satisfied with the calculations.
Correct. I
Okay.
don't recall the exact phrasing of his statement.
Okay, Susan?
Yeah, so the ENF, so just to explain a quick background about myself, part of my job is I do write these sort of reports and applications, and I did find a light in several areas. I don't have my notes with me, unfortunately, they're on my other laptop, but I would like to, figure out how we could get at least specific sections peer reviewed, if not, I'm not sure how that is.
Okay, so Susan, what I'd ask you to do would be to take your notes and communicate with the applicant.
Okay,
And then at the next meeting,
I'll write it.
at the next meeting, we can have a conversation about whether we would ask that another peer review be done on the specific areas of concern to the Conservation Commission.
Mr. Chair, if I could, because I think that's important
Not the
because
whole thing.
stormwater falls in between planning boards and Concom. And usually it's the engineer reviews at the planning board and we accept them and we don't have our own review. So this one might be an instance where we might have to.
I'm very concerned because of all that impervious surface that's going on.
And I'm sorry.
Go on.
Are you done?
No, go ahead.
I was just looking at, the plans middle about the stormwater plan, my computer here, and, there's a 50% TSS removal rate letter, but it's from the New Jersey DEP from 2015. So again, do you have more updated data for the storm defender?
And you'll follow up with a written comment with that kind of, a written report with that kind of comments and email.
I just ran across this.
Yeah. Okay,
Excuse me, just to finish up. If anybody wants to see all the documents, just go to the planning board homepage. Up in the left-hand corner, they have public documents. Click on that and it will bring you to another small page and Cape Road documents are there. And I would just finish up with stormwater pollution prevention plan. One of the items in there suggests that if there's a spill or a hazardous waste issue, to call the Rentham Fire Department. So I know that Dupree Engineering just did a job for the blue water down there. So I don't know if that was just a bad copy and paste or maybe they felt that.
and if you want to calling the Mendon Fire Department, make sure that you've heard that with them, what they're gonna do.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could ask kind of a follow-up, because thank you for your interest in
your research.
And your research. And
Yeah, that's all.
I did review the letter. And it seemed like there was maybe some good confusion as to which standards apply. I guess when it comes to TSS, normal is 80%, but
What's TSS?
TS total suspended solids as what that drives your engineering to remove that. And then total phosphate, and this is new to me on the Concom, that I understand total suspended solids. I've never reviewed necessarily the necessity for phosphorus. So it depended whether it was, I forget whether it was 50% or 60%. And there's a question whether it was new versus, so it begs the questions of stormwater review that the calcs can be okay, but that's just whether flooding occurs. There's all sorts of stormwater analysis that probably should be undertaken. So he brings up the issue of gets pretty far downstream to make a bad analogy, but they want to know, they think the project, because we have an MS4 permit for stormwater, they want to know if the statement they make is that I'm sorry, it's in the memo, it's not the
Yeah,
They,
I'd like to hear their response to the NEPA comments, if you have anything to say about that.
If I may, Mr. Chair, so just to clarify, so when you file a notice of intent, a copy goes to Mass DEP Wetlands Division, Central Region. So they provide you with a file number and comment. So we received 3 specific comments. Commission did get copied on that email. If you haven't seen that, I'll send that to you, but.
Yes, please.
So there's 3 specific comments from DEP relevant to the notice of intent. So I know the MEPA was filed before the notice of intent. The MEPA reviewer might not have even had a stormwater report. So this is the current, there's 3 outstanding comments from Mass DEP that we plan to address in writing for the next hearing.
Okay.
One of them is stormwater related, one of them is riverfront standards related, and the third one is filing fee related. So we have good answers to all those, so we'll provide that to you.
Okay, so we expect that the next time we have a continuation of the hearing, those things will be addressed. And we'll be able to follow up and let us know. The third thing that he raised was he mentioned an 80,000 square foot number, which is different from you stated in one of the slide decks that you were for the riverfront that you were under 6%. So can you talk with him about where 80,000 is coming from and how it relates to any numbers that you're familiar with?
so I'm reading from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Certificate for Energy Environmental Affairs Environmental Notification Form. And on page 4, under wetlands and stormwater, they write, as noted above, the project site contains BBW and RA associated with a perennial stream. The project will impact approximately 80,000 square feet of the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands and 3,900 square feet of the RA. So that's where the 80,000 square feet.
I believe that was addressed by the slide they showed where they had little yellow hash marks in two areas, and the deck said it's less than 6%, which is what is currently allowable under the regulations. Yeah, the second bullet item there. So even though 80,000 is the total, if you went out to the site and measured the entire area, it's 80,000, but they're planning on doing 7,660 something. They're doing less than 8,000 square feet of disturbances. So that's the response to that. If you have further questions, maybe you
I'll
can
take it on that because I'm not sure that that's
okay.
Perhaps the interpretation, but I could be
I
wrong.
have a simpler explanation. That 80,000 is the total of limit of work within the 100-foot buffer zone. So it's separate from riverfront. So we didn't report that number. We can get you that exact number approximately, but we focused on the performance standards of the local bylaw, which are more restrictive. So how much within 25 feet and 50 feet.
Yeah.
But we can, if you'd like, we could tell you how much disturbance total within 100 feet.
If it's easy to generate the number, we can make it public. You had a question over by the door.
Just a point of interest, Andy Fiskham, Blackstone Street. Just a point of interest, the highway surveyor has stormwater education and a lot of maintenance issues to do around town. Certainly drive-throughs could help keep an eye on to reassure the people of the town that it's being watched.
Okay, that's something to think about when you're coming up with your comprehensive future maintenance plan, where we might schedule a site visit where your maintenance people and our inspector would go through and come to a satisfactory conclusion. Are there other questions? Yes.
Yes, AJ Charbonneau, 14 Talbot Farm, one of the abutters. I have a comment and then a clarifying question. First, the comment, wanted to thank the board for the invite to the site visit. Given that that's literally adjacent to our backyard, it was helpful to see what is the impact. During the walkabout, though, there was a comment made to the southwest corner. And as we reviewed the disturbance of the wetlands, there was talk about 20 feet of trees being removed from the southwest. Could the applicant clarify that point? Because it wasn't represented anywhere on the plan.
Okay.
Yes, I can clarify that, and actually, the site walk yesterday was a good time to review this. You'll notice on the proposed plan, we had just a few small areas where we show a tree line and limit disturbance just inside of that tree line. In fact, those were, as far as survey, those are surveyed canopies of what was mapped aerially. And when we actually went to walk, with no foliage, the trees, particularly in the southern part of the property, these are all on the other side of the stone wall. So the actual trees stand on the other side of the wall, and it's just a tall canopy that was picked up on the survey. So those areas are all just going to be, are disturbed ground right now. And there's no tree clearing needed on the southern end to finish the grading. And it's the same case at the drainage outfall as well. There's no appreciable trees over there, and as well as the northeast corner. That was all basically just picked up from canopy, low brush, etc. So.
Okay, so the site visit corrected the previous misunderstanding of whose property the trees were on.
Correct, yes.
Okay, is that?
That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Kevin, sorry, this is Connor Downey, the applicant. We have a plan that we generated. It wasn't ready in time for this meeting that shows any disturbance to tree line, et cetera. We can present that at the next meeting.
Okay. I still don't see any hands on Zoom, on the Zoom call, Teams call. Another question from the audience. Ann, did you have a question? I don't see you have a hand up.
Oh.
No, okay.
Yes.
KS, if you could identify.
Hi, it's Kathy Schofield, 135 Blackstone Street in Mendon. So I have a question for the Conservation Commission. I understand that, a lot of that area has been, has lost all of its vegetation. What requirements, if any, would the Concom suggest for a project like this to restore some of that vegetation? Because we know that trees, shrubs, grasses, things like that are the best filtration system and the best at stabilizing soil. So I wonder if, if that will be part of the equation for moving forward.
Mendon does have in its bylaws parking lot trees and things like that. So that's not strictly speaking Conservation Commission, but the town of Mendon does consider that sort of thing important. Peter, Mike, you want to say something about it?
No, but a good question, because it's not within the buffer, and so arguably we can't mandate it, but a landscape plan for elsewhere in your disturbance, what is it going to be? It's all going to be put into grass. Usually it gets disturbed, grass and gets mowed. Right?
Correct, and any slopes will be grass, loam seeded.
So, yeah, on the edges of the roads, but any places that you could plant a tree, I think would be a good thing, whether it's in the parking lot or.
And the oversight that we would have is the more trees and other vegetation, the less risk of the catastrophic stormwater, wastewater event.
Don't forget, trees have roots.
Yeah, they want to go into the septic system and mess it up.
There's gonna be underground, systems there, so. But a great deal of thought should be put in where trees have been.
Okay, do we have another question from the audience? All right. Okay. Who wants it? Sorry, I can't.
Just chaos again.
Okay, just noise.
Well, I'll make him to.
I'm all set.
Thank you.
You think you'll have some better information at our next meeting? Is that going to be?
You want to come? We can schedule for the next meeting, and then if you are not ready and wish to postpone the other 2 weeks, just let us know. You heard us do a continuance for another project. All right, I will now entertain a motion to continue the notice of intent hearing for 23 Cape Road.
So, Mr. Chairman, I will second that, but before I second it, I would like to see, specifications on they talked about, basically a tip-up wall section or precast T-wall section. I'd like to see some specifications on that, so that we know what we're dealing with, especially, on the side of the building that's gonna act as the retaining wall.
Okay.
And I'll second the motion.
The motion's been seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Damon, I.
Tim, you there? Okay. He's muted. All right, I'll pass it unanimously. Thank you for the public hearing. If you have further questions, now in the next public hearing, I am monitoring the Conservation Commission mailbox, and when people leave voicemail messages, I tend to hear them. Not every day, because I have a day job. I'm trying to keep up with it every 2 or 3 weeks. We'll see about coming to respond.
Is there an email address?
Yeah,
That gets monitored?
yes, if you go to our website, brandonma.gov, there's a Conservation Commission page that you can link to. The actual website is concom.brandonma.gov. And that goes to agencies. And if it's an issue of concern for the wider Conservation Commission, we move forward it on to the full one. Because of the open the conversations about it, but that would notify everyone that we would be bringing it up.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll wait before we open the next public hearing for 106 Hill.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
apologies, this is Connor Downey from Blue Water. Could you clarify when the date and time for the next meeting will be?
The meeting is 7 p.m. The public hearing part of the meeting starts at 7:15, and it's the second Tuesday. Bring up a calendar.
Second Thursday,
Second
Second and
floor.
February 9th.
second meetings on the 2nd and 4th, and if it's a 5-week month, we skip that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. We still need it.
Mr. Chairman.
So February 9th. All right, there's a couple chairs freed up, so feel free to take a seat. We will now open the public hearing for 106 Millville Street, continuation of the discussion with the representative of conflicts.
Sure.
Well, should I get it? Maybe share them.
And then more. These are just contracts. Running hearing.
You had enough for now?
Yeah.
Thanks.
So introduce yourself and who else is here to speak on this matter.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tom Dutch with Goddard Consulting. I'm the science on the project. This is 106 Millville Road, and I'm here with the applicant attorney tonight as well. At the last hearing, we discussed whether we would be doing an enforcement order or a notice of intent for the project. I think we kind of came to the conclusion that we'd be doing an enforcement order for this. So the first thing, we'll just briefly go over our site plan. If we have site plans we handed out last hearing, but then I also brought smaller versions tonight. That's the first page of the packet. So that's just what we're proposing. It's a slope that's being pushed or pulled back. It's going to be 100 feet long in total and about 26 feet from the bottom here to the top over in this section. On the bottom, we're gonna be having a detention basin, and then in this portion, we're gonna be having a riprap section to stop stormwater from flowing so fast at the basin and allow some infiltration. So we're gonna be lessening the slope totally, and also planting it, so we're gonna be reducing all the erosion and putting a loam cap on top of it to allow for the seed to really kind of settle in and grow and stop the stormwater from entering either the wetland or someone else's property, which is not what we want. So the first thing we were asked was 3 dates. We were asked to put a date for when we're gonna be installing the erosion control. And we would like to be installing the erosion control by February 24th. Spoke with the contractor about that. He thinks that's an acceptable date for it. Next, we're gonna,
The erosion control is.
it's gonna be a silt fence and a straw wattle on the bottom.
And the straw wattle, the expectation is that will stay there after the conclusion, then be
Correct.
replaced over time.
Yep. So we'll be removing the siltation fence when the site is stabilized, and the straw wattle, it's essentially just a mulch sock that's biodegradable, so that'll all disappear, but it'll stay in place and the silt fence will be removed. So that date will be February 24th again. We're looking to finish all of the earthwork by March 31st. So at this,
Weather permitting.
what?
Weather permitting.
Exactly, weather permitting. We gave ourselves about a month to do the work just for snow and things like that, but the contractor does think that that work will be able to be done in about a month and a couple of days. And finally, we're gonna be doing the planting, or essentially just the seeding, which is gonna be a wildlife seed mix, and that will be done by April 14th. Also weather permitting, just because we wanna make sure that the seed sets and really takes hold, so we don't have any erosion, we don't lose any of the seed, and we get actual kind of nice looking slope with wildflowers and grasses and things like that. So I attached in the 3rd page of the packet a spec sheet of the conservation seed mix that we'll be using. Good for pollinators and birds and also small mammals and things like that for habitat. It also has some wildflowers in it too for the aesthetics. This is a really good seed mix for low maintenance. It controls erosion very well and also lessens the flow of stormwater down a slope like this. And I attached a picture of what it would look like on the last page of the packet too, so you can just take a look about what that will look like.
Anything in there for bees and pollinators?
There's a wildflower seed mix, so it's gonna be some black-eyed Susans, there's also gonna be aster in there. Joe Pieweed is also another one that has a flower, it's purple, so it's gonna look nice, it'll be good for pollinators, butterflies, bees, etc. So that'll all be great.
You're gonna present first?
Yeah, you can ask a question.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious. I mean, I'm just looking at the proposal here, 2 pounds. I mean, it's a huge area.
So no, the 2
pounds.
pounds, so if you look at 2 pounds is,
Not enough
it's
for
per, I think, 1,400 square feet, if I'm not mistaken, there is a
17.
1,750, so we're gonna be using a much more amount of that, and that'll be calculated out based on the square footage of the area that we're gonna be restoring there back to a normal natural
So
habitat.
this isn't accurate.
So that's an accurate number, that's the amount per square footage, so you need 2 pounds per 1,700 square feet to make it work.
So
it'll probably be more around 15 pounds.
give us a ballpark.
Quick math, it'll be
give us a
15.
ballpark figure on the square footage, total square footage. Just, you know, a ballpark, width times.
Yeah.
Width times length.
So it's probably right around 75 by 100, so, I think we'll probably need right around 15 pounds of it. At the absolute maximum, that's a lot of square footage that it will cover.
Is this seeded by hand or do you have?
So I think we're gonna be using a tackifier, and a hydro seed, so it'll stick it to the actual slope itself to prevent any of the water from, that might happen during a storm event during the early spring, from eroding all of that seed that we just spread into the wetland and off the slope, and that would be counterintuitive to what we're trying to do out here. And the last thing we were asked to do is come up with a cross-sectional of what the slope is gonna look like. So this is what the slope looks like in the most generic way possible. So we have, it's gonna be a 15-degree slope. It's 100 feet long, 26 feet tall, as I said. And these are the grades as we go up. These grades are associated with the grades that you see on the site plan. This is a fairly gentle slope. It's definitely a hill. It's a lot of material out there. We have to keep it somewhat of a hill, but a fairly gradual slope. So I'd like to open it up to any questions anybody might have. Do you know what the current slope is?
The committee gets to ask questions first, so, Peter,
My only question is that there was a catch basin.
Yeah, so we did find out where the catch basin went. That just goes into the woods right now. It just, the water kind of just flows out. It doesn't go into the area. Yeah, it goes sideways. Yeah. So
Does it daylight?
it goes this way. It only really flows if there's an immense storm event. So you'll probably see it today if you went out there.
Does it daylight?
The pipe itself,
Right.
I don't know. I didn't see any pipes out there, but I have seen water running down the hill.
The water running down the hill.
Mhm.
I'm more worried about the water that came in out of it, sitting in the bottom of the catch basin. Whether it has a pipe, or it might not even have a pipe.
Well, it has to have a pipe because the catch basin is in this location and it daylights in this location here. So the water comes out in this location.
So it
flows into the wet.
So it daylight, so there's a pipe, that's what.
There is a pipe, yes, the pipe leads somewhere here, but I didn't see the pipe in the field. It was more when I see it.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw, I mean, this was like last year. I saw
Mhm.
an iron pipe down the middle, the bottom of the slope, right in the middle. It was like sort of broken or whatnot.
So, yeah, that pipe was right here. That was an attempt to try and fix some of
Oh,
the
right.
scouring that was there.
Okay, yeah.
That's different
No, I
than the
remember.
catch basin pipes. And that's gonna be all removed, exactly. So that big scour hole is now gonna be a flat slope.
as well as the gully on the south side.
Yep, everything's gonna be really graded out and smooth after this.
And that's the earthwork that will happen between 224 and 331.
Correct.
So expect noise construction noise during that one.
Welcome in.
All right,
Improvements.
Tim, Damon, do you have questions?
I do not.
Okay.
Sorry, it's really hard to see without.
Sit in your pajamas at home. No, the camera isn't good enough, so don't
Can
worry.
you see that? That's our slope. And then here's our proposed conditions plan, which is really small, but
We are in the process of hiring a new clerk, and when they get up to speed, one of their actions that they'll be taking is they'll get this in an electronic format. As we're doing the Zoom call, they would be the person who'd be able to put it up on the presentation for everybody. Not just looking at the screen, but also people.
Hey, Carl, I got a lady here that's got her hand up.
Okay, yeah, so if we're all done with the committee, sure, Elizabeth, we'll get your question. If you unmute yourself. Yes, you're unmuted.
Hi, Elizabeth Leiden for the record. I am here representing a few of the abutters, Kathleen and Mark Alexander. We had some questions regarding where the soil is going, where the cement blocks are going, what the maintenance plan is for the planting along the slope, and how will you ensure that the slope remains stabilized?
absolutely. So first question, I think we talked about the last time. We're gonna do an operation and maintenance plan for the grass swale. That's currently being worked on by the engineer, and we weren't able to have it for tonight, but I don't think it's necessary to have until everything's complete. And that'll be sent to the Conservation Commission and the abutters as well, once we have it. And that's gonna essentially just have the applicant be able to see or be able to make sure this is still working. As for to confirm that all of the work is stabilized and everything like that, I think that a monitoring plan sent to the Conservation Commission for at least the spring and the fall after it's done is a good idea. To allow the growth during the summer in the late fall or the late spring, and then we have the fall monitoring to confirm there's no erosion from any storms during the summer, and that the grass is growing and the plants are stabilized in the soil. For the blocks will be removed during the beginning of the grading process. They're located down in this location here, so we'll have the machine grab the blocks and pull them back outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. We're gonna have a stockpile area. It's not demarcated on the plan here, but it's gonna be outside the 100-foot buffer zone. And it's gonna have a siltation fence wrapped around the whole thing, so we don't have any of the sediment flowing either into the wetlands or somebody else's property. And that'll just allow everything to be contained and the dirt will be settled. So it'll be far enough away.
Where is the existing well for the site? Is that going to be impacted by the construction work? This is
The well is in this location here.
That's the way that you don't need to worry about protecting the well from construction dirt.
Correct.
Our well is right on the other side of the property. Right on the other side of the fence.
Okay. That's going to be protected by the siltation barrier that they're doing on.
So our siltation fence is located in this vicinity here. It's shown on, you can see where my finger is tracking. That is our erosion control barrier. So I'm not sure where your well is, if it's in this portion of the site or towards the south, but the south down here.
Yes.
Oh, existing well. Yeah, that'll be all protected by the silt fence and nothing will escape from there.
So here's what you can do to mitigate your concern about that. They're expecting to finish the erosion control work by February 24th and have the siltation fence in. We'll all be able to see whether that happens or not. At that point, you can go out and look on whether you think that the work they've done is adequate to protect your well area from having stuff flow into it from the construction work. If you have a concern, you can reach out to us and work with them directly.
Mask.
You wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, I'm just curious, is the soil being removed at all from the?
Yeah, the
site?
soil is gonna be, at this point, the soil is gonna be stockpiled on the site. I don't know about the removal, but it'll be stockpiled outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, so outside of the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. We're also trucking in 8 inches of loam, organic loam that'll be added to the top of that. And that'll be a cap on top to stop any of that silty material that's currently out there from either being blown off property or blown into the wetlands, et cetera, et cetera.
You're gonna be trucking off a significant amount, right? You just haven't done that. Is there gonna be a balance cut and fill, you say?
I think part of the plan is to move it around, the back area of these buildings towards this roadway that's up here.
Well, then why isn't there contours there showing where the plant,
Well, I think that's a later plan. I think right now we're trying to deal with the issues, that are in front of us. I think that's somewhere down the road. The fill is clean, and it's gonna be housed or, stored outside of the, buffer zone.
And one of the issues is on that other side, on the left side, there's additional wetlands there.
And certainly anything that's done on that side, if we make a road on that side, we'll obviously come back before conservation when that happens. But right now, the goal is to move everything out of the buffer zone, clean it up and stabilize.
Where do you think that the soil's gonna be stored? What's the?
That location hasn't been determined at this point, but some outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. So this line right here is a 100-foot buffer zone. It continues all the way around, encompassing this wetland to the south of the property. So outside of that, and then again, it'll have a silt fence around the whole thing, so no sediment will be escaping.
Well, there's also the problem that we have observed on site with wind. That the neighbor's property has been getting silt blown through the air rather than water discharge. So yes, technically you're outside of the 100-foot zone, but we're still going to be, because we have seen silt flying through the air, we're going to be concerned about if you just pick up a lot of dirt to put it at 101 feet away, we're going to want to make sure that you have mitigation to prevent it from blowing right back in.
Yeah, we can put some kind of fabric over top of it to prevent any wind erosion in that.
Okay, so if you could come up with that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned that this is not gonna be a done deal. Yes, you're going to have, fix the wetland impacts, but it's still gonna be an unstable.
Yeah, this is what I was thinking about in terms of the enforcement order, and we'll have to check what we're allowed to do because we haven't done enforcement orders in a long time. Normally, when we're doing an order of conditions with an applicant, we might, if they finish the building and work in the winter time, we'll give them a conditional order contingent on making sure that plants started growing. We may want to do something similar here where the order of enforcement says, here are the things that are going to happen on these dates. We wouldn't release you from that enforcement order until the other aspects of dealing with the dirt are moved. And that's something that we can explore.
Yeah, I mean, because then it becomes a jurisdictional issue.
Yes, exactly.
And of course, not to forget that I believe that that's designated as a farm.
Yeah, and also there's a criminal action that was taken. So there's a whole lot of other legal stuff that I know that town council, Dave, Lonnie Tinio and other people have been working on for the past couple of years. So our enforcement order may end with you getting the dirt 100 feet away. We would want to check in and make sure that there's another part of town government that's going to do oversight and look at what happens to the dirt before the town is completely satisfied with the activities on this site.
But understand that anyone has the right to store dirt on their property, particularly if it's designated, clay fill, which by the way, we spent a great deal of money to test. But it's also designated as a farm.
Okay.
As an example, if you look at Hawks Farm up off of Pleasant Street, huge piles of manure. As long as it's not in the buffer zone, there's nothing improper about that.
Okay, so we'll continue.
So we'll visit
continue discussing that. I believe you were first and then you.
I have a couple of concerns. I'm Kathleen Alexander, 14 Level Street. I have a couple of concerns. Mr. Neto also owns the property, the house the historical house next to his property. I'm concerned that the fill is going to be dumped behind that property because it is a big slope and which will create the same issue on the left side of our property.
Is the historical property a farm?
No, that's a dilapidated house.
Yeah, it is. Concerned that the fill is going to be moved from.
It's a separate parcel.
Okay, so
But he owns that parcel.
Mr. Neto is here.
I'm Mr. Neto, 106 Millville Rd. Yeah, no, they are together.
They are one single parcel. Okay, so it is in fact part of the farm. But even though it's part of the farm, we still have to comply, with conservation issues.
Okay. So are there wetlands on the other side of that parcel?
Yes, there are.
Okay, so
There's wetlands down here to the south, and that would cast a buffer zone at least to the corner of the property, probably to here.
okay, so you will make sure that you're 100 feet away from whatever wetlands you end up.
Absolutely.
And so are you able to give a date by when you think you will have completed deciding where the dirt's going to go and those other issues?
I'm not sure I can give a date.
Okay, I hope you do it by, I hope you do it by March 3rd. By 2/24 when you're going to start scraping the dirt out.
Well, no, I'm sorry. I thought you meant eventually. You mean stockpile. Wherever this gentleman says we should be.
Okay, so that will probably need to get done before you start moving dirt on 2/24.
And maybe some pretty good details as to what protections around that stockpile.
Yeah.
And then maybe if that stockpile, once it's done, some sort of covering, if it's gonna sit there for more.
Yeah, no, we agree that maybe some kind of cloth or material should be over to protect it.
The other question I had was, because all of this property was owned by the same person at one time, there are a lot of, from our pond, or detention pond and retention pond, there are pipes that go through this property into the wetlands back here. And I was wondering if any of this construction here would be interfering with the outflow from
From that retention pond.
Right, exactly.
I know the pond you're referring
Right.
to.
Yes, you've been on this property. Constant.
Yeah.
So any pipes that are dug up are going to interfere with the drainage because we get the drainage off of
Yes.
Millville Street and off of Lovell Street.
So my question for you is, will the contractor be careful not to tear up the existing pipes?
He definitely will be, and
I've been with him down there several times. He's very familiar with,
Yes.
with those issues. In fact,
been
I
on
think
the property.
you guys were there with us. Yeah.
That's right.
He certainly recognizes the issues.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if he inadvertently rips a hole open or something, you'd be able to notify us. And
we'll fix it.
The appropriate people.
The other question I had was who's going to maintain, is there a maintenance plan for?
So that there's gonna be an operation and maintenance plan. It's being worked on right now by the engineer. That will be submitted to the Conservation Commission as well,
Okay.
and to you.
And one last comment, the owners of this property on this map are no longer the owners. Right, it needs to be revised. That needs to be revised.
Okay, has that been recorded with the registry, Worcester County Registry of Deeds?
Yes, yes.
So you'd be able to go to the public records to find out who, and make sure that they get the notification. Elizabeth, I see you have your hand raised again. Are you,
Oh.
do you have a-
I don't think I ever put it down, but I guess my question is, with an enforcement order, can you require a monitoring plan?
You mean during the work or afterwards as part of a maintenance program?
I think typically this would be done through an order of conditions. So with the enforcement order, the typical plans that are required to be submitted wouldn't be required. But through enforcement, how can we ensure that the plantings are established, or that the slope remains intact, or that the plan that they submit is adequate once everything is completed?
Is that something you'd be doing? Because
That would be something that we'd be doing. I think I spoke on it before. It would be a monitoring situation,
For
whether
this year. From this perspective, how do we enforce an enforcement order?
Well, it's basically spelled out. My suggestion was gonna be when we go to finalize this is, we monitor it for a minimum of 2 growing seasons. First growing season, the stuff will come out. Again, summer comes, fall, winter. Second growing season, see if it really took or not.
In case it dies.
Exactly.
It needs to be reseeded.
And all of that can be recorded in the enforcement for the remedies.
And of course, it's important for everyone to understand that any of you can come and inspect it at any time that you want. And that's obviously part of your ability to ensure that the enforcement order is being complied.
Okay, you had a question in back?
Just a comment for the neighbor that was concerned about her well.
Name and address.
I'm sorry, Andy Fisk, Blackstone Street. It's just a point of interest. You might want to, at this point, have a well test done, so you have a baseline on your well as far as the quality of your water. And then as this project goes on, if you have suspicion that there's something contaminating it, you can do it again. And if there is, then you'll have recourse.
We had one done, last year.
So you have a baseline right now.
Yes.
That's great. That's great.
Perfect. And of course, all of that bill was inspected and scientifically
Yeah, you did core
analyzed.
samples.
Yeah. And all of the bill was brought was clean.
Are there any further questions about 106 Millville?
Yeah, just back to the stockpiling. You know, the the actual location and size and shape of that is going to be actually pretty critical, regardless of it being under the 100-foot buffer zone. As that's, if it's too close, it's going to contribute to runoff directly into the buffer zone. So it'd be really great to get an idea of what that's actually going to look like.
And they're going to certainly put safeguards in place so that it won't.
Well, that's a opinion.
Well, that's the engineers.
No, I mean, runoff, regardless of what you put into place, it's highly unlikely that there would be no runoff that would affect it, depending on the slope of the stockpile. So.
siltation fence and erosion control is designed to not allow any sediment from exiting where it's surrounding. So that would be the safety net that would encompass the stockpile of soil. So even if there was runoff going down, it would just be captured by the erosion control.
Okay, so can you hold that up again? Right now, you're putting erosion control around the part in the northeast. If you decided to put the dirt over by the other wetlands, you then need to come back and say you're putting siltation there.
Correct.
So when you when you make a determination of where the dirt's gonna go, then you would check and see if you need to have further siltation barriers. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that sounds reasonable from your perspective? Okay,
So we'll get a plan before all the erosion control gets done, showing where the stockpile is gonna be.
Even that would be acceptable.
Oh, I think so, yeah. I apologize, the contractor's not here tonight. He, actually has a stomach bug. But certainly, I think it makes perfect sense to have a plan in place for you ahead of time so that everyone has a chance to look at it and say, I like the location.
and there's a couple more meetings between now and 2/24.
Doesn't seem to me that there's a whole lot of options. You're gonna be that low spot or.
Yeah, I don't think there really is either. I think it's gonna end up.
My question more is the volume. Is it gonna be 5 truckloads or is it gonna be 500 truckloads? But that's, and that you probably could do a takeoff, right? Or you're not putting in much fill.
The engineers have to have cows for that, to see how much fill is gonna be actually removed, to see where it'd be stockpiled, so that's an engineering question.
Okay.
Somebody that can create the plan.
I think it's gonna be a pretty significant amount, considering what it looks like now.
Okay, next question.
Versus.
Next
Right.
question, Kathy Schofield on the Zoom call, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just have a quick question about all this fencing. When the project is complete, how is it ensured that all this fencing is removed? Because I know in a lot of cases it gets left behind.
That's going to be part of the enforcement order.
Okay.
Everything will be removed except the wattle.
Which is going to be mostly underground.
Yeah, it'll go right back into the ground.
It's a biodegradable product made to be left there.
Okay.
It helps create natural.
Yep. Okay.
Great.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Is there someone else who had another question? Okay, with that, I believe that we can now continue the discussion of 106 Millville until our meeting on February something. And
Is that an actual date?
well, we looked it up before and I forget what it is.
Mr. Chairman, I suggest we put it to the second Thursday. Because we've already booked up the first, second.
The 23rd. Well, my
There's gonna
concern,
be a lot of, as tonight showed, there's gonna be a lot of discussion.
well, I'd like to schedule it for that date and then we can determine how busy the meeting is going to be because there's only 2 more meetings until 2/24 and we definitely want to be able to provide feedback before when you think you want to finish the erosion control work.
Absolutely.
We appreciate the timeline.
So is that first Thursday?
No, it's second and fourth. So which, can someone,
The 9th,
February,
9th. After that, 23rd.
which only gives you 1 day until 2/24 when you
Yeah.
want to have the work completed.
He's extreme.
Make sure no one steals our room.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to continue 106 Millville.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
I'm sure I was talking about her mother too.
Seven. The public hearing part is, the meeting starts at 7 and you heard we do whatever. Well, getting, or and then we switch to the public hearings. So 7:15 is when you will be asked. We put you in line with everybody else. We just work our way through the agenda.
We're familiar with it.
Yeah, and I'm going to go, who's got more people interested in the hearings?
So we'd like all of you to come.
Just for a point of that, we're having, both sides are having our attorneys here. And if the rest of the room doesn't have an attorney that they're paying for, we would appreciate being able to go first.
Okay.
or second,
Okay.
and not having to.
I may not remember that, but next time when I'm taking a poll of who's in the
Right.
audience, let me know that, yes, I'm here and I'm here with my attorney.
Okay.
It's the same as he's here with his, he's
Right,
here with his
exactly.
attorney.
He would like to go, he would like us to
Well,
go.
didn't you guys have to wait? The thing that dropped me from the agenda was the phone. I think we.
This was not on the agenda.
Oh, yes.
No, I'm talking about,
Yeah,
talking
no,
about
yeah.
a couple months ago.
A few weeks ago, it wasn't on the agenda.
No, it wasn't on the agenda.
Everyone came and then we have to leave.
And it was-
No, this wasn't on the agenda either, and I emailed the commission and it was.
So I'm just saying that's a
the
good
next day.
reason that we should be prioritized.
Kind of like a reimbursement.
Yes.
All right, so that includes 106 Millville. I believe we have someone here for 73 Blackstone. Yep, you want to come up to the front?
Yeah, sorry, got the continues, they're still waiting for your. Yes, you should have left one down.
For 35, for Hastings and Washington, the project, yeah, that one. I mentioned, we did that at the very beginning, I said, there's still waiting to get access to the thing to get.
Okay, well, we just got to the rock.
It's reasons.
We thought we were up there.
All right, all right. Can I bring the meeting to order, please? What we talked on the phone before we get into the discussion of 73 Blackstone, some old businesses that you are waiting for. OOCs for 30 Misco and 2 Nipmuc, and 2 Nipmuc is time sensitive. Right, so is that in this file here?
No, this is the money.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, so we'll try and track that down and see about getting that printed out and signed so that it doesn't hold up your work.
Okay, that's fine.
She heard, our clerk is retiring. She wasn't even able to make it tonight because she works for the power company. The power company said, you are not leaving town. You are staying right here in our mobile response center because of the storm in case something falls down.
I understand.
And so she's resigned her position and we'll be getting a new clerk to help us out.
Okay, just also that, I did submit 2 NOIs, 75 Blackstone and 73.
Okay.
So I had submitted both and only one was on the agenda, but you said I could present.
Yes, 73 and 75.
Okay.
Scrivener's error when she did it up the.
No, I understand, but things happen.
And Susan and I will be struggling to do the agenda next time, so.
Okay.
You'll know who to blame.
No, I'm not blaming anybody, I understand. Okay.
Okay. You may.
Okay, so, good evening, my name is Peter LaVoy. I work with D&L Design Group out of Milford, Mass. We're here tonight, for Lobasa and Ferrera Construction. They're out of Hopedale. So the project is located at 73 Blackstone Street. Blackstone Street runs along the bottom of the page. There is an existing house on the adjacent lot here. There is an existing barn right here. This is a proposed lot. So we're taking that parcel and subdividing it into 2 lots. So the house, and then this is basically existing conditions. You come in, there's an opening off the street. There's a vegetated buffer along the front, and there's a small vegetated buffer along the front here of the house. Then you have a small grass area inside. So basically the grass area comes around here and comes open. So this is currently, I would say most of it is grass. I would say probably 65% of the proposed grass area is grass. So I think the tree line comes like straight across here. So this portion is new clearing, and then the front portion is grass area. We did do soil testing and was witnessed by the town. So we did the soil testing in the front right here. There is a man-made swale that was dug a long time ago, and it was flagged by a botanist, Paul Knappich. So this small swale has wetland vegetation in it. So you have the 50-foot and the 100-foot buffer off the back here. Basically, there is the Spring Brook, which is basically here. The closest point to that brook is roughly 245 feet. So this is 245 feet from the brook over here. So basically, we're proposing a single-family house in this location here, proposed driveway in this location here. We're proposing erosion control all the way around, proposing stockpile area in this location. We have 2 recharge areas for the downspout across the front, a downspout across the back. It'll go into this recharge area. We also are proposing a construction entrance. So when they're doing construction, they're not gonna bring that mud onto Blackstone Street. It'll go through a construction entrance here and then out that way. And that's basically it.
So Blackstone Street runs north to south. You got it running east-west there. So which way is north?
North is that way.
That way. So it's on the west side of the street.
Correct. On the high side, on the high side.
Okay.
This is all high. It slopes from here down to Blackstone Street. So if you're sitting on Blackstone Street, you're looking up. But this is kind of flat. This is only roughly 4 feet higher than the street. This is kind of a flat area.
So what's the difference in the elevation from the back of the house to that culvert going out that way? Is it flat?
Going this way, it's basically flat. So this is flat. Once you get, this is it's dug, and they just kind of dug a trench and left the spoils.
Okay.
So you come here, this is flat, and then it goes up and then down.
Any idea why they did that? To try to drain, or was it just?
Excuse me, Maureen Ames.
Yep.
Megan Court, I own Wyndham. Trying to sell it.
Okay.
Dad dug the swale because the water used to run down behind the house and go into the cellar. So he dug the swale so the water would go down towards the door.
So it's a man-made.
Just service.
And it was done a long time ago.
But it's holding
When I
wetland
was a kid,
species.
so-
It's not a critical wetland, but it kicks in, it's connected.
Correct, it is connected. That's why it's got a buffer and.
If I may?
Yeah.
Andy Fisk, Blackstone Street. I just recently sold all the land behind there. I owned it all from that swale. Further on to what I sold is upland. And that was the runoff that Bob tried to keep away from the house, divert it. So there is no swamps or nothing like that up there.
I mean, there is a wetland way over here, which is associated with the Spring Brook.
So on your diagram there, it's not clear to me where the wetland is and what the 100-foot and 25 and 50-foot.
So it's a very narrow strip. So it's this very narrow strip. It's only roughly 6 feet wide.
Okay.
But it was flagged.
Yeah.
And then this first blue line that runs over here is your 50-foot.
Okay.
So basically from the house to the wetland, it looks like it's set from the house to the wetland, it is 69 feet. From the house to the back property line, it's roughly 79. For the second blue line, that's your 100-foot buffer right here. So it comes like this, and the 100-foot buffer comes like this. This is off locus, but there is a wetland here, so you have the 50-foot wraps around, and then it comes back this way.
You can't move the house closer to the street or?
No, because of the septic, this is all ledge. So, basically the house is gonna sit on grade. And because of high groundwater, we have the system's raised a little. So we want to keep that vegetated buffer because this street is very busy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of noise, so we tried to keep that vegetation, so basically no vegetation across the front to kind of keep like a sound barrier off that street.
Is it a walkout out the back or?
No, this is at grade, so we're basically filling the front yard, and this is just gonna be a walkout. I mean, not a walkout, just
Yeah, that's about that stuff.
Where's the well?
Oh, the well is in this location here, and then we have a small well pit right next to it. A 6x6.
So if I understand, you are not attempting to do it within the 25-foot no disturb.
No.
50 and 100 feet, 20, are you doing anything between 25 and 50?
Yeah, we're doing a small portion right here.
And so you're basically making yard.
Correct.
So that he has enough yard to protect the house from falling trees.
Correct.
Okay, and then the actual house is going to be within 100 feet.
Correct.
Okay, any questions about that?
I know the property. Well,
I have a couple of questions, Kyle.
Yep, go ahead, Tim.
I know that's a very wet area, especially seasonally, and I know it's Springbrook goes through. And I wanted to go take a look at the property, but I didn't want to just go on there. I would like to request a site walk to see how Springbrook is situated between these two lots. So I would like permission to maybe have them meet me on the lot, or if anyone else would like to join. I mean, I'd definitely like someone else to be there as well.
Yeah, let me know what time, when it's gonna be, and I'll go.
Okay, so there is interest for us to have a scheduled meeting with the sidewalk. Are you able to schedule that next week, well, between now and our next meeting?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, would you extend that also to any abutters or other interested?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
no problem. I mean, whenever they're available, I can make someone from my company available to be there.
Okay,
So whatever their schedule is, we can.
okay, so Peter, do you know who to reach out to try and set something?
I can contact him.
Okay, you'll talk to Peter. When that happens, send an email to concom@mendonma.gov. Susan and I will read it and we'll forward the invitation on to the rest of the committee. See if we're able to.
If I'm around, I can.
Yep.
Depends.
I mean, once I show 75, you'll see where the stream is with respect to this house.
Yes.
Because like I said, the closest point of disturbance from Springbrook is 245 feet from this location here. So we're not doing anything within 245 feet of the stream for this lot.
Yeah.
So we'll see that next. So I'll have a motion to continue or have.
Well, yeah, let me finish. Since when you come back and when as we sign off on the NOI and turn it into an order of conditions, we will have our usual language about setting up erosion control, making sure the well is protected, things like that. And we can go into the details of that after the site walk next meeting.
Okay.
It may be that the site walk, people come up with ideas and talk with your engineering people, and maybe we'll move things around a little bit so that you're getting a little farther away from the wetlands.
Okay.
So yes, I'll entertain a motion to continue 73 Blackstone for our next meeting on the 9th. Just stick it on the 9th and then we can push it out if we need to.
That's my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Susan got in there first for whoever turns this into minutes. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right.
Damon, I.
Tim, I.
Okay, vote passes unanimously. We can now move on to 75 Blackstone. And which way is north?
North is this way.
Okay.
So this is the lot we just looked at.
Yep.
Right here. Here's the wetland. Here's that little bubble. Got the 50-foot one around. You can see how it wraps around. Here is the man-made swale that comes in this way. It's very narrow.
Where's the road?
The road is on the bottom. Right here.
So the road is right next to the wetlands is right next to the road. Okay,
Correct.
That's what
Yep.
confusing me.
Yeah, there's a culvert right here, right
Okay,
at this location
that's a
here.
pretty big stream, and that's.
It is, yes, yep.
And that's where
Is that
Springbrook,
Springbrook?
This is Springbrook right here.
that's where Springbrook goes, and then Springbrook keeps going east and connects up with stuff over that way. Okay,
Okay. So, the existing lot is an open field. If you go out there, there is an opening in this location here. The tree line is the existing tree line that's out there. So you have that existing tree line that wraps around. Basically, it slopes from this side down towards the wetlands. The wetland line and the bank or the high mean annual for the stream was flagged by Paul Knappich. We did classify this as an intermittent stream. We did stream stats on the opposite side of the street, and we do not meet any criteria. It doesn't meet the drainage area, and it doesn't meet the 99%. Also, the abutting property just adjacent to us had done a determination in 2016 with this commission, and it was considered as an intermittent stream as well. I do have the determination that was submitted to your commission. And I also have a copy of the stream stats that if anyone wants to look at, it shows the drainage area and 99% bank full.
okay, a brief interruption. Are there any butters or audience members who would want to contest the depth that is considered intermittent rather than running all the time?
We're all in agreement.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
I just thinking back to the last one, first hearing we had when people.
Well, what is it on the USGS map?
It is a dark blue line, but it was determined that it was intermittent, just adjacent. And it also doesn't meet any of the criteria. And due to the time of the submitting of the notice of intent, we could not visually see that it was dry at that time.
Because we just had a big rainstorm.
Correct. But we took in, we talked to the abutting person, and he did, he gave us the information for his determination that was just adjacent to this.
So that means you were not subject to 200-foot.
Correct. So that we're classifying this as an intermittent stream because of those three criteria. So basically, the proposed project would be the existing driveway coming in to where the existing opening is. So we're not cutting any trees down. There'll be no tree cutting at all for this development. Proposed driveway comes in, septic system was pushed right up against the road. We did soil testing that was witnessed by the town. So here's your proposed house in this location. Same thing, we're proposing recharge areas on both sides to tie in the dry wells to get that additional recharge. Erosion control goes around the disturbed area. I did show a stockpile area in this location here in the front. And then proposed well is in the back because we need to make that 100-foot buffer from the septic. And then I have a proposed well pit right in front of the well.
What does that have for a foundation or?
That is gonna be a full foundation, no walkout.
The garage kind of comes right in.
Comes into the side, yes, yeah, because we wanted, like I said, it's just like the other one, we wanted, if you go out there, sight distance is good, this is probably the best location for sight distance. And we wanted to keep that buffer, for the sound. So that's why we didn't want to cut any of that. There's a nice stone wall that runs along the front as well as a fence. So we wanted to just preserve all that.
I have a question about, I have a question about the open field. Why are there no trees there? Is that something that's going to cause a problem in terms of soil?
No, I mean, that's been maintained, cut, it's just like, I don't know. It was a hay field, so they kept.
But now they had animals.
Had sheep and donkeys.
Oh, okay, so-
Had bought the field. and
So
did-
is this zone residential or farm?
You talking?
It's residential.
No, Bob Fagan, B&S
Yeah,
Real. Yeah.
I know the property.
Okay. Wanted to.
Yeah, so they've maintained this as a cut field, but
Okay.
there's no proposal to do any other work outside of
Okay,
where we were proposing.
okay, I just. So, yeah, the reason it's, doesn't have trees is because man has made sure it doesn't have trees.
Correct, yeah, I mean, that's why they have like a fence all the way around, so they probably had animals in there.
Yeah.
So I think we could view both of them on the site walk and we could get a better idea of, you know, the stream and the wetlands on the site walk. So that'll be perfect.
Well, I know that piece of property well. I'm ready to make a motion to accept that plan as presented. I think that particular lot is pretty cut and dry. But so to speak, it's up to the.
Is there an advantage in you getting the go-ahead on this one? Or is it easier if we just wait and do both of them?
I mean, if we could get this one closed, that would be great.
Okay.
No, I mean-
I'd like to do a site walk on the whole piece, you know, with the two lots. I mean, I think it makes sense. They're adjacent to each other and they're dissected by Spring Brook, you know?
So how about we make acceptance conditional on us finding no issues at the sidewalk? Tim, is that okay?
I mean, why, is it something that you're in a hurry to get going? Or, I mean, I think, you know, with them being contiguous, I'd like to see how they drain. You know?
Saying, to get going.
Well, I mean, we did submit this in December and then because of the paperwork that was, you know, we haven't, but I mean, if it's whatever the commission wants. to do.
Can I ask you a question? What's the groundwater on your testing? How deep? Where's the model?
32 inches,
Yeah, that's wet. Yeah.
that's standard in that whole.
So I can't see, so the perimeter drain is breaking daylight where?
This one at the edge of the grading,
And
near the wattles.
in relation to the buffer zone?
It would be just prior to the 50.
Yeah, so it's in the buffer zone, yeah.
That's the low, the right-hand side is the lowest portion of the lot, and the highest side is on the left.
Well, I think right now is the best time to look at it because the water must be flowing like crazy. So it would give us an idea of what the probably, you know, almost worst conditions are going to be. That's why I want to that's why I want to do a site walk.
Yeah, I mean, it is flowing now with all the rain, and it does have a big, I think that's a 36-inch pipe under the road.
Which should be like.
You know, we talk about hand dug, you know, man-made swales and hand dug swales. Those turn into wetlands, you know, so I get that it's a man-made or dug swale, but now it's a wetland, you know. We've gone through that before, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Right, that's along the back. That's
Yep.
along the back, 73. Yeah, if you go out there, you're at the top and you're looking down. When I was out there doing the survey, I was in the bottom of the trench and you couldn't see my head. So it's he dug all the way down into groundwater and that's why it became a wetland. That was the reason.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, it's a deep hole.
Yep.
So. You guys could probably seen that swale.
I mean, is it going to hold you up to wait till the next meeting?
I mean, I would like to get it, I would like to get it closed, but I mean, if the commission said if you need to see it, then.
Well, it's up to the commission. I mean, I'm a no right now because I want to walk it, but I'm not, you know, I just want to see it. I want permission to go on the property, you know?
Well, that's why I'm saying we would do this one conditional on the sidewalk and whether there were any further issues. That way, on the day we do the sidewalk, you'd have the permission to do things. Otherwise, you come back at the same time.
Well, both of them.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay with that after the site walk, sure.
Additional what the sidewalk is.
Correct.
Yeah.
Again, my opinion is this particular lot is fine, but since we have a member that wants to look at it, that I'm fine with that. I'm not gonna.
Okay, you're willing to be gracious to see.
Oh, sure.
But there are no other concerns with the commissions on either one.
I do not have any with that particular lot.
Tim is saying he may have issues at the sidewalk. Okay,
that's fine.
Yeah, if it's, you know, they can go forward at, you know, conditional to the sidewalk, that's fine with me. I don't have a problem with that.
Both of them or just this one?
Yeah, I would say both of them. I mean, I just want to, I think we should just take a walk on it just to see. I mean, this is worst case scenario right now is how wet it's going to be, I would think, you know?
Right. Do do that, we can make,
Yes.
but you close the other one, so I don't know how that one works. You could make a
I'll work it parliamentary. Okay.
I just want to make one comment, the gentleman that's talking, that TA gentleman.
Yeah, that's Tim
I
McCarty.
caught him on my property.
Pardon?
He was on my property. He thought it was an abandoned house. He was going to go walking around, so I told him to please leave because I didn't
No,
want.
no, I never went on that property.
Saw you there.
Excuse me?
I saw you there in your pickup truck in my yard.
I stopped on the main road because it was abandoned. I didn't go on the property at all. I never went on the property.
Told him I could get around with money.
All right. Is this germane to the business that we're conducting, or can you take this offline with it? Okay. Okay, if it is a concern and there is you feel there's hostility, we can discuss whether Tim would recuse himself from
And then
voting on this. Well,
What we need, they need a agenda, they need a full board.
so, if you
What's
have,
the problem? What's the problem? I didn't hear that.
if the applicant or the other, or the representatives have issues and feel that there is a conflict of interest with some of the board members, then send something to the email, and we'll contact you and have a discussion further and come to a resolution or decide how to proceed. All right, so,
I don't understand, but whatever. Okay.
if they feel that there is a conflict of interest with you or Damon, they will write it up, send it to the email, and Susan and I will review it and decide what action to take. And conversation with you and Damon about it.
Oh. How did Damon get involved in this?
They just brought up his name, so I'm saying I'd like to not discuss that now and then.
Yeah, let's just do a site walk and move forward. Call it a day. We ain't asking to do soil samples and just do a site walk. Take 20 minutes and we'll move on.
Okay,
That's fine. It's fine.
okay. So if you can express your concerns in writing, we review it and decide whether to address it at the next meeting. All right, so I will temporarily turn back the clock and motion to reopen 73 Blackstone. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Discussion about two motions, one right after the other, that sound exactly identical, to approve additionally the NOI presented by Peter Lavoie for 73 Blackstone, and then the second one would be, after we do that, we'll do it the equivalent motion for 75. And it is conditional on a site walk to be arranged between now and the next meeting. Do I have a motion for 73 Blackstone?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Vote, roll call, or all in favor?
Damon, I.
Tim, I.
Okay, that one passes unanimously. Entertain a motion for 75 Blackstone to be conditionally accepting the NOI.
So moved.
Second, please.
I'd like any coffee.
Second? Second. Peter seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Damon, I.
Tim, I.
Parliamentary wizardry complete. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank
But
you.
that shouldn't gain you a whole lot. So because you're not gonna go and sell it. So it's a couple of days, not even that. So
We
we might have some.
We held them up because of our paperwork. I want to make sure.
I mean,
I know that particular lot, and but since we have a member that wants to walk it, that's fine.
I'll call Tim tomorrow.
Hey, Peter.
Yes.
This to speed things along for you guys, you might want to fill out the paperwork for order of conditions yourself, because we don't have an admin, and
Okay, no, I will do, I think Kyle had mentioned that to me on the phone too today.
Okay, good. All right, that's good. I just don't want you to be looking for some paperwork. You'll never find it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're having trouble finding.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Next on the agenda, do we have anyone here for 47 Milford? Anyone here for 47, 46 Bridge? Yes. Okay, we will, wait and see whether that's on the next agenda. Thank you.
Good
And,
So what we got here? You've been there patiently all this.
It's been a busy night tonight.
Good. So,
Okay, this will be brief. Margaret Bacon, Civil Site Engineering, and I'm here requesting a negative determination for a proposed tight tank on 46 Uxbridge Road. And just to get your bearings, this house is right next to Imperial's classic car there. Okay, so that's that building, so it's the next house over.
Yeah.
Failed cesspool, Nitmuck Pond in the back,
Yeah.
and a well right here. We did do perk tests, and we did get a perk test, but I got ledge here, I got ledge there. This is our parking lot. So we can't really squeeze a septic in there. The
So
only thing we got,
where are you gonna put the tight tank?
right underneath the gravel.
Front of the house,
That's correct.
not on the bit lakeside.
No, right in front of the gravel drive. The only place it's gonna go.
In my opinion, that's fine,
Okay,
and I would make a motion to, no impact.
how many bedrooms is
it's a 3-bedroom.
it's going through all the Board of Health stuff? They,
I think I have the Board of Health meeting next Wednesday.
okay. So you can,
No impact, but they gotta put up some sort of erosion control.
I do have erosion control, actually. Yeah, it's just right here, because we're not doing anything in the back.
Right.
So all right here is just parking lot, so I got erosion control just so between this work and the back.
There's more wood that the neighbors aren't gonna be disturbed so much, but yeah. It's tight there, so it's,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
okay, before you make a motion, any other questions or discussion from the board? Damon, Tim, any questions? Okay.
I'll make a motion to, give it a negative determination.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Did you submit a form for that?
The RDA form?
A negative determination form?
No, but shit.
Well, why don't you put it together and get it so,
Sure, I will.
Yeah.
Okay.
again, with, our administrative staff is
No, no,
non-existent, so we would appreciate it.
no problem. That's not a bad idea.
They just
So,
helped us again.
not a bad idea, so I'll take care of it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
You know,
All right.
I apologize if we had known it was gonna be that simple.
That's the way it goes,
Yeah.
sometimes in this business.
Thank you for your.
Yeah, the other one was kind of interesting, actually.
Yeah, thank you. I'll make a motion to, for the meeting.
Second.
Second, that one.
Motion passes. Thanks for coming. They will now turn off the recording.